Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 41. God Descends. The 7th. Bento took a deep breath and pulled his scimitar from the goblin's throat. The touch from the blade cutting the flesh is so real, accompanied by the spray of blood, warm and bloody, spraying his face. He did not choose battle screen harmony in the game system. Is different from many players who can't adapt to the blood. He really likes this kind of personal killing in the game, as if he has come to a battlefield with gangsters. This can give him a sense of freedom and nostalgia that cannot be obtained in reality. Especially after he was promoted to the 11th level of Black Iron, he changed his job to become a hunter and possessed the sneak skill. Wiped the blade of the sackcloth on his body slightly, and the bento frowned. Is a little bit curled up. These scimitars from goblins are much sharper than wooden knives, but the same seems to be less durable. Of course, the bento didn't know that it was because the wooden knife was made by Eve himself. Although it was not sharp enough, it was more durable. He threw away the scimitar in his hand and replaced it with another one from behind, which was dropped by him before killing other goblins. Then, he raised his head and looked around. The body of the elf gave Bento the excellent night vision ability. Even in the middle of the night, everything about Filunqui could be clearly reflected in his eyes. The goblins have all been awakened. Currently, more than 70 players who have been transferred to the lower ranks of the Black Iron are chasing and slashing. The gap caused by the change of rank is indeed terrifying. In the afternoon, players still need to cooperate in 3s and 2s to kill a goblin, but after being promoted to Black Iron, with excellent physical fitness and skill enhancement, goblins are not players at all in one-on-one opponent. Even those female players who are relatively timid can rush all the way with their own after using the stab skill. Then, without their own reaction, they stab those goblins who had less time and opportunity to react to a heartwarming, and by the way, the blood drenched in them made them scream louder. Not to mention those mad players and Liver King players who have gradually adapted to the rhythm of the battle. For them, tonight's Filunqui has become the best playground and hunting ground. Bento shook his head, and used his sneak skill again. With a move of his mind, his heartbeat and breathing instantly slowed down, and the breath of the whole person gradually faded, almost into the darkness. He is going to hunt down the last goblin priest. If you read it correctly, it should have fled in the direction of the temple just now. More than one player had the same idea as Bento, and players who participated in the attack on the priests also rushed to the temple. The contribution of a priest is topped by 5 goblins. Even the experience points provided by killing priests are much more than ordinary goblins. And judging from the situation just now, they are much weaker than the previous world boss, which is simply a free sale. Not only that, according to the task information provided by the goddess, the temple is also the most likely drop point for the blood crystal of the gods. A piece of sacred blood, a full 800 points contribution. With the desire for experience and contribution, the players rushed toward the ruined temple. In the temple of, the only goblin priest knelt down and prayed under the image of the ***** of winter and hunting. As it prayed, the light on the ***** image became stronger and stronger, and even the 26 ***** blood crystals in front of it began to emit a faint halo. At the feet of the goblin priest, a mysterious giant circular array slowly formed, and the silver light kept writing patterns. When the players rushed into the temple, they saw this scene. God's blood crystal. A lot of God's blood crystal. Their eyes lit up and shouted excitedly. And the bento sneaking in saw more things. He glanced at the circle on the ground, his expression gradually serious. This is, the sacrificial circle. His memory is always good. When the oak tree guard Basaka sacrificed the skeleton staff to the goddess Eve, he had silently watched on the sidelines, barely impressed with the appearance of the circle. Although the magic circle under the goblin priest is slightly different from the one drawn by Barthaka, it is almost the same overall. Almost in an instant, the box lunch reminded everything. It's the sacrificial circle. No. Stop it, everyone. It wants to sacrifice the blood of the gods to the gods. At the same time, Li Emu's eager shouts also came from the entrance of the temple. Obviously, this veteran anchor also recognized the sacrificial circle under the priest. Sacrifice circle. When the players heard it, it exploded. Not good. Stop it. Where is the remote skill? Quickly release the remote skill. I will destroy that circle. Almost at the same time, all remote players started throwing skills on the ground without money. Under the horrified gaze of the goblin priest, fireballs, wind blades, lightning strikes, vines. Almost all the offensive spells that it can think of, greeted it in its direction, www.mtlnovel.com, accompanied by it. With the loud noise of boom, the bluestone ground was torn apart under the raging magic, and the magic circle that was about to be formed was instantly destroyed. Even the goblin priest in the center of the magic circle spewed a mouthful of blood because of the magic backlash. I grew old in an instant. However, although the magic circle was damaged, the brilliance on the idol did not diminish, on the contrary, the faintly became stronger. The players could not care about the joy of ruining the circle, they heard a majestic and sacred cold snort. Humph! The sound was deafening and illusory, as if it straddled the void, with endless fury of offended. Everyone was shocked for a while, the brain was dizzy, and there was faint blood flowing from the nose and ears. Even the lurking lunchbox could not help but spout a mouthful of blood, and fell out of the stealth state. What's the situation? Will it trigger the boss? Ah, my blood bar has dropped in half. The players slumped, coughing up blood, and forced their eyes wide open, and looked at the idol in the center of the temple vigilantly. Suddenly, the brilliance on the idol suddenly became more shining, and the 26 blood crystals scattered on the ground slowly floated up as if being pulled, and flew towards the idol. In the shocking eyes of the players, the blood crystal of the gods and the idols began to merge gradually, blooming with dazzling light. Accompanied by the increasing pressure, the light continues to expand, and finally turned into a translucent energy giant intertwined by photons of gold and green. Vague face, strong body, holding a giant axe and a long bow. His appearance is 8 to 9 points similar to the statue of Uller. Chapter 42, Bright Blood. The aging goblin, who had been backlashed by magic, raised his head with difficulty, his eyes widened, and he looked at the energy giant several meters in front of him in disbelief. The image of the other party slowly overlaps with the **** of winter and hunting in its impression. Mian. Myanxia. It has waxy lips, fear and awe, and it can't even say a word. The energy giant glanced at it, his eyes were neither happy nor sad, and he could not see a trace of emotion, but another cold snort that followed, expressing his inner dissatisfaction, made the goblin shiver subconsciously. At the same time, accompanied by the dazzling silver light and the misty hymn, a sacred and vast pressure was released from the giant in an instant. That is the natural oppression of higher beings from the origin of life on lower beings. The soul pressure of the true God. The goblin priest only felt an irresistible force hit his heart, hitting his soul directly, causing it to split with a headache, and fainted almost instantly. It fell to the ground, unable to move the slightest, but it kept roaring in its heart, rejoicing with a hint of joy. Is the true God. This is the power of the true God. After taking a look at the goblin, the energy giant quickly turned his attention to the invaders pouring into the temple. Elf. His low, hoarse, thick and solemn voice was filled with doubt. And when he saw the appearance of the players, even the vague face seemed to be stained with surprise. Somehow, under the giant's supernatural power, the players did not shiver like goblins. On the contrary, although they were vomiting blood, their eyes were shining, as if their souls were not affected. They looked at him curiously and vigilantly, without fear, no respect, and only novelty and excitement. What's more, he started chattering and exclaiming. It's the boss. It's definitely the boss. This Nima won't be Uller's goods, right? It looks like that idol. It's so ugly, much worse than the goddess. But this special effect is a bit powerful, just scared me. I feel he is so strong, I can't see the depth. You won't want to destroy the group. Why don't we slip away first? I have one perfect resurrection. Energy giant. Although he didn't understand what the group of ants were talking about, he felt the offense between the words. The majesty of the gods cannot be profaned. The energy giant roared, and the huge energy palm instantly snapped at the player. In a blink of an eye, 4 or 5 unlucky guys were photographed into a mosaic. Fuck. Fuck. Quote, quote. The remaining players were almost stunned. They didn't care about coughing up blood. They stood up and began to flee and evade, while cursing the dog for planning the balance of the game. Slap the temple, and the temple was about to collapse, and the difference in strength was too big. While looking at the elf body that was shot to death by myself, I couldn't perceive the slightest trace of soul in it, and the face of the energy giant seemed even more surprised. Not a wizard. The thick voice rang out. At the moment the energy giant appeared, Eve, who was tens of kilometers away, also felt it. He turned his attention in the direction of Philunqui in surprise, with a trace of dignity in his heart. A strange power. And very quickly, his heart sank slightly. Because he discovered that the photons belonging to the players in the Godhead space, several of them extinguished at the same time. Is not only that, there are more constantly extinguishing. Is it a second kill? He pondered for a moment, separated a trace of consciousness, hid his breath, and carefully cast into the photons that were still flashing. The vision changed, and Eve quickly gained the perspective of the players in the temple. At this moment, the energy giant seems to be in a rage. He attacks the player like a fly, and from time to time, unfortunately, the unlucky guy is hit. In the temple, there was chaos for a while. There is no hope of victory in sight. Many players have already escaped, but there are still many people who insist on staying and hiding everywhere, seeming to want to try. Uller got the inheritance of the world tree, and Eve also recognized the identity of the energy giant. This shocked him. What a hell, just brushing goblins, how could this guy be drawn over? And it turned out to be the incarnation of supernatural power. Where did he come from so much divine power to cross the two realms? Just for a few goblins. Eve felt that this was crazy. He didn't follow the routine at all, and completely disrupted his plan in an instant. Then, his next thought was to slip. Just kidding, if the other party finds out that his existence is over, he is still dying. A divine power incarnation, the strength is at least a legendary start. But the idea of running away just arose and was quickly suppressed by Eve. Wrong. His incarnation doesn't seem to be that strong, and it doesn't seem to find me. Players who are shot dead will be teleported to the world tree to be resurrected. Even though Eve has reduced his natural aura as much as possible during the teleportation, if the incarnation of the true descends with the bonus of the will of the gods, it is impossible not to feel the nuances in it. Thinking of this, Eve boldly observed the energy giant again. At this look, he immediately discovered the problem. Is it a temporary avatar shaped by the power of nature? Looking at the light green photon on the energy giant, Eve suddenly realized. Then, it was exclaimed. This is how much supernatural power has been saved. He quickly understood the status of the other party. Uller did come, but he came only with a trace of consciousness. The incarnation of the divine power he formed was actually formed by using natural divine power abruptly. In this state, the incarnation energy is chaotic, even with a trace of the will of the gods, he cannot perceive the breath that belongs to Eve. After all, his incarnation is full of the natural power of the world tree. Not only that, but it is very difficult for him to manipulate this avatar with chaotic internal energy. Thinking of this, Eve once again observed the state of the energy giant. This look made him see more things. It is the blood of God. This guy is the incarnation of the forcible aggregation of the blood of the world tree, and it is very unstable. He has to suppress the backlash of the natural divine power, and can't exert the power of the incarnation at all. It's no wonder that he has to come forcibly, must be to recover the crystal. This natural divine power must be at least 30 points, but I will be excited. Tisk, suck, more than 30 points. Eve is a bit greedy. However, his state is not stable. As long as he is constantly stimulated by the outside world and disrupts the energy balance, the avatar will soon collapse on its own. The blood crystal will also be withdrawn. After figuring out everything, Eve felt relieved. He looked at the players hiding everywhere, already had an idea in his mind. That's right, Ural's energy incarnation is very strong. Even if it is the incarnation of forced cohesion, the power it possesses is by no means the player can match, and the intensity of its every blow has approached the legend. But if it only disturbs the energy balance of the avatar, As long as it can afford human lives, it is not impossible. After all, the incarnation of Ullr who needs to continue to suppress the backlash of natural divine power is too dull and heavy. His movements are not even as agile as an elf. This is a target for players. Thinking of this, Eve took a deep breath. Forget it, I will bleed once. After speaking, Eve began to use his supernatural power. However, at the very beginning, he stopped again, and after thinking about it, he took out Hela's soul storage orb, and drew out 0.1 of the supernatural power value, and painfully stuffed it into the coding function of the game system. Then, he nodded in his consciousness with satisfaction, once again aroused his divine power, and passed countless messages to the players of Phylunqui. At the same time, www.mtlnovel.com, the players in the temple received new system information. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket warning. Warning. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The story boss has appeared. The story boss has appeared. Close black lens bracket. Plot description. In order to gain the power of the world tree, the despicable Ullr forcibly carried out incarnation and condensed, and took away the goddess, blood crystal. However, his state is not stable. For the glory of the elves, you have decided to fight against them heroically and regain the power of the goddess. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Task objective. Ullr's divine power incarnation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Task level 11 plus. Close black lens bracket. Task reward. According to the damage contribution of killing the boss, the corresponding contribution degree and experience value are allocated. The minimum reward contribution degree is 300, the minimum reward experience value is 1000. Task reminder. Ullr's avatar is not stable. If it disturbs the avatar's energy, it can be destroyed without attack. Ullr will try to return out of war, and he cannot give him a chance to return. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. The story mission is opened, all the combatants enter the infinite resurrection state. Infinite resurrection. Before the incarnation of Ural's divine power is eliminated or returned, all players participating in the attack will continue to be perfectly resurrected, and the level will not change after death. Winning condition. Ural's incarnation collapses smoothly. Failure condition. The incarnation of Ural returns successfully. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Boss status has been updated, current stability, 100%. Under the surprised gaze of all players, a red strip appeared on the head of the energy giant in their field of vision. That is the stability of Ural's incarnation. Or say health bar. Chapter 43. Even if it is a god, kill it for you. Bright blood tank. It's Ullr. It's really a plot boss. Looking at the prompts in the system, the players' eyes lit up. And when they saw the task reward and the line in the system bar, player status, infinite resurrection, all their worries were forgotten. They refreshed, and the look they looked at the giant changed again. That is no longer a terrible boss, but a cute experience point and shiny contribution that you can get at your fingertips. The mission rewards of this plot boss are no worse than the previous Goblin World boss. More than that, this time there is no worry about losing grade. For a while, the players were moved. Looking at the elves who came across, Ullr's incarnation suddenly felt a little uneasy for some reason. He roared again, took another palm shot, and slapped the two distracted players into meatloaf again. But this time, no one escaped. Demacia glanced at the system bar excitedly and yelled. What are you doing in a daze? Go on. Fuck him. After speaking, he rushed towards the giant excitedly. Ullr's incarnation glanced at him coldly and stepped on it. Puff. He was stepped on to a paste, and even his equipment was not spared. Li Mu. Box lunch. Xiao Xian meow. Seeing this scene, the players calmed down. They glanced at each other, nodded to each other, turned around and ran outside the temple. Want to escape? The avatar let out a sneer, and moved his heavy body to catch up. However, when he came outside the temple, he couldn't help being stunned. The elves did not continue to escape, instead, they returned with weapons. The only difference is that, except for the wooden sword and wooden staff in their hands, they don't have any equipment, especially those elves in close combat. More distant places, there are still elves who are constantly taking off their equipment and handing them to the low-level spectators to save. For a time, the sacred light of Phylunqui shone. It's just different from the previous holy light. This time the holy light is dim and deep, with a faint breath of death. It was created by Eve using Hela's supernatural power. He also deliberately amplified the breath of death to cover his original natural breath. Seeing a group of elves glowing with death breath all over, Ural's incarnation stopped. A hint of surprise flashed across his vague face. Hela. He can't help but doubt it. Among all true gods, only two have the highest research on soul. One is a powerful divine power that has fallen, and is in charge of nature, life, and the world tree Uktrahir. The other one is Hela, the **** of death and the lord of the underworld with medium power. And Ullr could not detect the breath of the soul in these elves, but could perceive the breath of death. Obviously, the result is self-evident. At this moment, Ullr has almost determined that the strange group of elves in front of him is definitely made by the death ***** Hela. His heart became more and more uncertain, wondering why Hela's favored person appeared in the secular world. However, before he could continue his actions, the players could not sit still. I saw the elves in front of me shouting with excitement. Go! For the elf, for the goddess. Fuck him! Down with Ural! Ula! After roared, dozens of power elves rushed towards him, flashing countless skill brilliance. In the distance, dozens of other elves sang as they walked, and brilliant magic kept falling on him. There is no slightest fear of gods. There is no fear of death at all. Ullr's avatar didn't feel pain, but facing the offense of the elves, he was completely angry. Although he is very jealous of Hela's strength, this does not mean that mere mundanity can tarnish the majesty of the true god. Even if they are the favored ones of Hela. Roar! Divine Power Avatar let out a roar and drew out his battle axe. Now, he is serious. Since you dare to attack the incarnation of the gods, you must pay the corresponding price. The great axe made of supernatural power slashed down, and a terrible crack suddenly opened on the ground, deep and bottomless. And all the players affected by the attack are all turned into fragments. Fuck. The boss is enlarged. Go behind. Go behind everyone. This big guy is slow. We kite him. The players uttered an exclamation first, but they were not afraid. Instead, they continued to attack him, like flies that could not be driven away. Ural's incarnation became even more irritable. Although the attacks of these elves are weak, he also knows that his condition is not good. Can't fight for a long time, but quickly destroy them. The divine power incarnation flashed his eyes and let out a roar, making the attack more violent. After he increased his attack power, the casualties of the elves rose instantly. However, just when the incarnation of Ullr thought he was about to kill all these ***** bugs, dozens of holy light spirits filled with death screamed in the distance. The gaze of the divine power incarnation moved over subconsciously, and he was suddenly taken aback. Because he discovered that the elves who came here were all the ones he had just killed. The undead. The thick voice of Ullr's incarnation brought a touch of solemnity. At this moment, he thought of more. The elves have lost their true god, and the soul after death will go to the underworld. And these elves seem to have their souls hidden. They are immortal existences, like undead with hidden phylogenetic. Could it be? Is it the heroic legion under Hela? His voice was a little bit unbelievable. How could Hela's heroic legion appear in the world of Segus? That is the guards of the true gods, responsible for guarding the kingdom of death and the underworld. What's more, why is their strength so weak? At this moment, Ural was at a loss. However, the players don't care about his thoughts. Seeing the energy giant seems to be faintly lost in thought, they all shined. It's stiff. The boss is stiff. Quick. Take the opportunity to attack him. Use more ranged magic attacks. Blood drops quickly. For a time, countless spells and sword skills once again greeted the body of Ural. Feeling the divine power in the body gradually, the giant's fuzzy expression changed slightly. He roared. Go. At the same time, www.mtlnovel.com, a hint of retreat was born in my heart. There is no need to toss here anymore. If the opponent is really the heroic legion of Hela, unless he sends a real incarnation or totem guardian to come, it will not be able to defeat the opponent. Hela must be plotting something in the fairy forest. But that person doesn't seem to pay attention to it personally, which shows that his plans are only limited. I don't need to spend it here anymore. The matter of the fairy forest can be investigated in secret by the believers. Now, the most important thing is to send back the blood crystals of the gods in the avatar. Thinking of this, Ural's incarnation once again swung an axe to force the elves back, and secretly began to prepare to return. Hehe, do you want to escape? From the player's perspective, Eve, who saw the transformation of Uller's incarnation divine power, sneered and used divine power again. For a while, all the attacking players, the boss blood tank in their field of vision changed again. I saw an orange energy bar that kept reading under the blood tank, and the system warning also followed. Open black lens bracket Uller's incarnation has begun preparations for its return, and the return will begin after the end of the reading. Close black lens bracket. Seeing this sentence, the eyes of the players are red. Not good. He wants to run. Can't let him run. The blood bar is finally worn out by a quarter. Reward. It's been so long. Quickly interrupt his reading. Ula. They yelled, and stopped going around in circles, but launched a reckless charge. And those long-range players no longer retain the slightest magic power. They threw all their skills out one after another, and committed suicide after exhausting their magic power, and then rushed from the resurrection point to continue fighting. Chapter 44. For the glory of the goddess and elves. Seeing the elves who fell into madness almost instantly, Uller felt a bit stuck in his heart. What's the matter with these bugs? They want to prevent my return. Just rely on them. An offended anger surged from the bottom of his heart. But soon, he calmed down. Perceiving the natural divine power that becomes more and more difficult to stabilize with the player's attack, Uller's incarnation pupil shrinks slightly. No, they want to disturb the energy of his incarnation. For an instant, he thought of more. God's blood crystal. Hela must be for him to transform the god's blood crystal in his body. Yes, Hela's death priesthood is not complete. He has been at the peak of medium divine power for thousands of years. Legend has it that Hela once suffered a serious injury in order to be promoted to a strong divine power, and until now he has not completely recovered. Hela must have sensed the unblocking of the blood crystallization of the world tree god just like him, and brought the attention of perfecting the priesthood to the world tree. Death and life are opposite laws, but they have similarities. Things must be reversed. If life is clarified, death will also be transparent. As the most rapidly progressing in 2000 years, Uller has always been proud of his wisdom. At this moment, he thought he had found the truth. Saw his huge divine power incarnation suddenly raised his head and roared towards the west. Hela, I have no intention of being an enemy of you. With your strength, I can continue to look for other natural blood. Don't interfere with my business. The loud voice, with deep guard and reluctant anger, spread far, far. Hela. Eve, who was peeping from the perspective of the player, was taken aback. What does Wu Lei mean? Could it be that Hela, the **** of death, is here? For a moment, he became vigilant, wondering if he should hide the soul storage orb first. But a moment later, Eve did not feel the breath of death. He was a little confused, but then he thought of something, and his heart gradually became a little weird. It's not because of the death power of the Harmony Holy Light that Uller treats the players as the subordinates of the death ****** Hela, right? Eve didn't know what expression she should make. To be honest, when he obtained the soul storage orb, he did indeed have the idea of putting on a vest for his future incarnation. But this time, the supernatural power of Hela is rendered to the player's harmonious holy light. In fact, he simply wants to put on a safety lock for the risk of exposure. But I didn't expect it seemed to be too much. Uller, he directly regarded his elven army as Hela's handwriting. Ahem, sin. But, let's go wrong. At least a weak divine power in the Ural area would not dare to jump in front of a medium divine power. He would definitely not dare to go to the underworld to confront Hela. And with Hela's relationship, Uller's actions in the fairy forest afterwards will probably be more careful. I will have more time for development of wretchedness. Thinking of this, Eve has decided to just throw the pot on Hela who lives in the underworld. Ahem, anyway, Miss Hela is so strong, she shouldn't care about being hostile by a small and divine true god, right? Speaking of it, his army of players, in a sense, is a bit similar to the heroic army of Hela. However, Eve prefers to call them Scourge, if they are named. So, he didn't stop doing two things. He painfully took out 1 point of divine power from Hela's soul storage orb, and threw it into the connection channel with the players, and operated according to his own means of natural divine power. For an instant, a new system bar appeared in the player's vision again. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket unyielding, brave and fearless. Your bravery moved the great goddess, and she decided to bless you in battle. Close black lens bracket. You get the buff, the blessing of the goddess. Your weapon gets buff, goddess's blessing. Effect. In the next hour, you will lose all negative emotions, you and your weapon's attack power and defense power will be increased by 100%, all skill damage will be brought with a lethal effect, and the energy interference effect will be doubled. Close black lens bracket. The end of life is death, and the end of death is new life. Open black lens bracket the brave chosen, charge for the glory of the goddess and elves. Close black lens bracket. Accompanied by the deep brilliance of divine power, all players feel an icy breath rushing through their bodies, and then all physical indicators have been strengthened. It's a gain buff. They were all overjoyed. Feeling the constantly rising power in the body, looking at the boss whose blood tank is decreasing in front of them, their fighting spirit is completely aroused. Generally speaking, when this buff blessing appears in the game battle, it means that you are about to win. Victory is right in front of you. I saw the players earnestly one after another, their expressions became more excited, and the shouts came one after another. The support of the goddess is coming. We are strengthened. Boss can't hold it anymore. Down with Ural. For the glory of the goddess and elves, charge. Ula. For a while, all players strengthened by the power of death began to work hard. Feeling the effect of the death magic on the elves, the face of Ural's avatar was distorted. Hela. He let out an angry roar, and began to retreat, trying to withdraw from the siege of the elves. Just like the original goblin high priest grumbled. However, it was too late. The little death power released by Eve is like breaking the last straw of a camel. With the blessing of death power, the player's attacks are even sharper, and the stability of the energy giant begins to decline at a speed that is almost visible to the naked eye. Uller killed one player after another like a fly, but soon they would come from afar again. Eve also gave up. In order to support the player's perfect resurrection, he consumed 1.5 points of natural power at once. And the penetration of death divine power also made the restless natural divine power in Uller's transformed body even more chaotic. Go. Perceiving an increasingly bad state, he let out an angry roar, and then changed his strategy. I saw the energy incarnation roll with divine power, breaking free from the player's siege, slowly floating from the ground. Nima, fly up. Bullingus can't fly. Where is the remote output? Focus on him. There is only a little blood left. Everyone, come on. Seeing that the divine power incarnation wanted to evade, the players shouted. However, the incarnation of the divine power waved his hand, and a translucent barrier appeared under him, blocking all magic skills. I go. Not good. I can't beat him. He is reading the article again. One cut. Another cut is enough. The blood tank has bottomed out. Seeing the higher and higher incarnation of supernatural power, all the players are anxious. Ants are ants after all. Seeing the elves on the ground in chaos, Ural's incarnation let out a sneer, and then continued to prepare to return. However, before he finished reading the article, a vigorous figure rushed out of the elf. Is a box lunch, www.mtlnovel.com, with a wooden knife in his hand, his expression is cold, without joy or sadness, just like a cold warrior. I saw him like an elegant lynx, climbing along the broken walls of Fei Lenqui and reaching the top of the highest temple in 3 or 2 strokes. Then, his body bloomed with the brilliance of skills, the force of his feet was a swift bounce, and even the stone sculptures on the roof of the temple were torn apart under the action of his power. Skills, open black lens bracket quick leap close black lens bracket. With the help of his skills, he jumped nearly 7 or 8 meters, then gracefully tumbled twice in midair, directly over the energy barrier, and rushed towards the incarnation of Ural. Skill, open black lens bracket air pedal close black lens bracket. Under the frightened gaze of the divine power incarnation, Bento threw his wooden knife in the air. The wooden knife instantly hit the eyes of Ural's incarnation, and the breath of death power finally became the last straw. Hela. Amid the roar of the divine power incarnation, his body began to twitch violently, and the bright light continued to condense. This series of changes only took place within a few seconds, and other players on the ground were dumbfounded. After throwing out the throwing knife, the box lunch fell from midair. When he was about to fall to the ground, he used the skill air step again, made a beautiful roll, and then stopped firmly on the ground. Kneeling on one knee, no emotion. Behind him, there was a loud rumbling noise. Along with the dazzling light, the energy giant turned into a gorgeous firework, which exploded to pieces. The brilliance of divine power spilled on the ground, mapping the figure of the lunchbox bright and dark, and the blood crystals of the gods shimmering with light green brilliance fell one after another, scattered around him. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel Chapter 45, The Player's Attack. 1. Good job. Watching the destruction of the incarnation of supernatural power, the players cheered. Then, he focused his attention on the greatest hero. It's the box lunch boss. What a sharp operation, how handsome the skill connection is. How did you do it? Listening to the admiration of other players, the box lunch did not say much, but silently bent over, picking up the blood crystals scattered on the ground one by one. At the same time, a new system bar appeared in the vision of all players. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The plot boss, Uller's avatar of power, has been defeated. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Beater. Player, box lunch, close black lens bracket. All players participating in the battle will be rewarded based on damage contribution. Close black lens bracket. Reward settlement begins. Box lunch also showed a system prompt in his field of vision, but unlike other players, his field of vision also showed the special effect of the Q version of the goddess cheering with fireworks. And then, his reward also followed. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. In this mission, you contributed 4.53% of the damage, gained 4,532 experience points, and contributed 1,373 points. As the defeater of Uller Divine Power, you will receive additional task rewards, 1,000 contribution points, 3 times of Perfect Resurrection, exclusive title, Fearless. Open black lens bracket. The fearless. Even in the face of gods, a strong heart still makes you fearless. Close black lens bracket. Fearless. Looking at the prompts in the system, there was a wave of fluctuations in the deep pupils of the lunchbox. He stretched out his hand, turned off the system prompt of whether to equip the title, and then stood up and walked towards the players. Players have also received their own mission rewards. After a moment of joy, they focused on the boss drops. Where is the blood crystal of God? I saw a lot of drops just now. This boss is so rich, deserving of the incarnation of divine power. At least 20. The box lunch boss seems to be put away. How do you divide the crystallization? Amidst the players' comments, Bento came to Li Mu. In the battle just now, although Li Mu did not contribute a lot of damage, he has been participating in the players' command work. There has been a faint tendency to be the leader of the internal test player, and his status is somewhat similar to the leader of the group. I saw Bento go straight to Li Mu, and handed him the remaining 26 pieces in a short and powerful voice. You will assign it. Li Mu raised his eyebrows, then nodded, and took the 26 sacred blood crystals. For a time, more than 70 pairs of eyes looked over. After putting away the sacred blood, Li Mu looked at the players who looked at him with bright eyes, a little headache. He pondered for a moment and said, I have 2 ideas. Let's vote by show of hands. The minority obeys the majority. One converts all the blood crystals of the gods into contribution, and then all of us share the contribution equally. The other is the roll point. It depends on everyone's luck. According to the value of everyone's roll, from high to low, the lucky 26 people got the gods. The players looked at each other, nodded their heads and began to vote with a show of hands, but the final result is that most of them tend to change to the contribution degree and then divide it equally. The function of the blood crystal of God is only to convert it into contribution. After all, it is almost the same as money. Players think it is relatively fair to divide it evenly. Seeing everyone's vote, Li Mu nodded. Then first replace it with contribution points. There are a total of 26 God's Blood crystals, which can be exchanged for 20,800 points of contribution. A total of 73 of us participated in the battle, and an average of 284 points was scored. The remaining 68 points were given to the box lunch for the final blow. Do you agree? After hearing Li Mu's words, the players nodded. Box lunch. Yes. Xiao Xian Miao, no comments. Stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes. Unexpectedly, there will be so much left after evenly sharing. Demarsha. Haha, that's a lot. The value sold to the revenue contribution is almost 300 soft sister coins. Seeing the players nodding, Li Mu also breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at the sky and said, then the blood crystallization of the gods will exist here first. Everyone will continue to clean up the goblins of Fei Leng Kui, and we will strive to complete the main mission of the goblins in the former holy city before dawn, and then wait until dawn. Re-establish the teleportation circle in the future and complete the remaining mission goals together. The appearance of the avatar of Ural attracted most of the players' attention, and they suspended the hunt for goblins. However, now that the boss has been eliminated, players will naturally return to the main task of eliminating goblins. Although many goblins have just escaped from Phylunkui in the chaos, many of them have not escaped, but have taken refuge in the center of the ruins. However, they are doomed to fail. Under the action of a certain mysterious power, many players who have been promoted to level 11 have acquired detection skills, and creatures below their level can't hide under the effect of detection skills. Not only that, the game system also carefully marked the remaining number of Fei Leng Jade goblins in the task bar. That was observed by Eve with his keen sense of life. After Li Mu finished speaking, the players also took action one after another, and began to search for the goblins that slipped through the net in the ruins of the Emerald Green. From time to time, there are screams of goblins and the laughter of the players coming from all directions of the ruins. In the deep night, it's quite scary. Li Mu didn't continue to chase the goblins, but put on his equipment, installed the blood crystal, turned and walked in the direction of the teleportation formation. He wants to deliver the blood crystal of the gods to the oak tree guard Basaka who guards near the teleportation circle in time, and ask him to sacrifice to the goddess at UU reading www.uakanshu.com. The blood crystal of the gods is still too unsafe to hold on the body, and there is a risk of falling. Changed to contribution earlier, and Li Mu felt at ease earlier. This is his responsibility, since players trust him, he will never let everyone down. Even if he will have less experience and contribution to kill goblins for this. It would be great if this game had a backpack system. Although it is necessary to simulate the reality, it is not necessary to simulate all of it. It is too inconvenient to move with things. Feeling the full of Dangdang's pockets, Li Mu shook his head. However, this is also the charm of the game. It seems that high-level spellcasters can make storage magic equipment. Maybe I can get one when my level is higher. He thought happily as he walked. The forest at night is deeper and quieter than the daytime, but the elves with night vision are not affected. Li Mu walked in the forest, as if walking on the ground. But at this moment, a strong sense of crisis suddenly came to his mind. Li Mu's expression changed, his body tensed subconsciously, and reflexively hid from the side with the combat experience accumulated in the game. As soon as he dodged, a wooden knife slashed at the place he was going to pass, blooming with the brilliance of skills, and cutting off a thick-mouthed tree. If Li Mu hadn't reacted quickly enough, I'm afraid he would be cut in half just now. He turned his head in horror, and when he saw the attacker, his expression suddenly became angry. Fried tomatoes with tomatoes. What are you going to do? Game ID, stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes. That is another level 11 player who has just participated in the plot boss battle. Chapter 46. Red Name Mechanism. Cut. Stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes poked regretfully, and took his wooden knife back. His expression also didn't look good. Li Mu quickly thought about everything, and saw that he suppressed his anger and reluctantly said calmly. You leave now, I can assume that nothing happened. Money is touching. Games are different from reality. Compared with the real world, which has moral and legal constraints, the game world is more free and unscrupulous, and it is also easier to inspire another side of human nature. 300 players, it is impossible that they are all united. 26 blood crystals, a total of 20,800 points of contribution. In the early script of the game, this is at least 20,000 soft sister coins. It's not surprising that someone is willing to take risks for them. However, it is obvious that the player named Fried Tomato is not ready to fight against all the players in the closed beta, otherwise he will not use his nirvana in the first place, and strive to be in Li Mu. Kill him before finding himself. Elf Country is really very different from other virtual online games. In this game where the simulation is almost 100%, it is actually not uncommon to have a second kill. Although the probability is very low, as long as the timing is correct and the key points are aimed at, even low-level players can kill higher-level monsters in one shot. Although this is different from the general game mechanics, in the eyes of the players, this is more like reality. At the same time, this also makes the Battle of Elf Land more dramatic and playable. Fighting wits and courage is sometimes even more important than simply spelling data. At least, when the level difference is small. Fried Tomatoes dare to shoot Li Mu, also based on this factor. If Li Mu was killed by a single blow without knowing anything, he wouldn't be able to explain the blood of God even if he had a mouth, and the Fried Tomato would naturally hack all the boss treasures smoothly. But unfortunately, he underestimated Li Mu's ability to react, and the attack failed. The two fell into a deadlock in an instant. Li Mu is not a combat profession. As an auxiliary druid, he has not drawn an offensive skill. And in Elf Country, the role of skills is very strong, especially the skills given by Eve. If it is the indigenous learning skills of Segs, then mastering a skill will undoubtedly require cognition, practice, familiarization and proficiency. But Eve's skills are different. This is through the connection with the player's consciousness, directly engraving the method of releasing skills in the player's consciousness, and assisting the player's skill release through the game system. For the player, this is equivalent to direct 100% skill proficiency. In other words, the effect of the skill is far beyond ordinary damage. Therefore, Li Mu is not confident that he can defeat the professional fighter Fried Tomato in a one-on-one situation. As a commander, everyone knows his skills clearly, and there is a real confrontation. Li Mu also has no confidence to escape in the hands of Fried. If Li Mu remembers correctly, this Fried Tomato is considered to be a very high play among the 300 players. Except for the box lunch, there are few operations that are sharper than him. Even if he is angry again, Li Mu can only try his best to delay time and try to convince the player in front of him. Tomatoes fried with tomatoes, I can more or less guess what you think. I don't want to comment on other things, but since you didn't kill me in the first time, then it's meaningless. I think, you don't have the will the other 71 closed beta players or enemies, right? Appropriate threats are necessary. Of course, we have to give people hope. So, the same sentence, if you leave now, I can assume that nothing happened. Li Mu said calmly. Fried Tomatoes, expression changed slightly, and he seemed to struggle for a while, and finally let out a sneer. So what? It's just a game. This is only a closed beta. Even if it offends 70 players, it's worth 20,000 points. The open beta hasn't started yet. As an online game, there will be a battle of factions sooner or later. I never thought about playing with you all the time. Not to mention, said, the expression of Fried with tomatoes became slightly playful. There are only you and me. Even if you are forcibly killed, what evidence do you have that I did it? Hearing his words, a trace of contempt flashed across Li Mu's face, but it quickly became solemn. Stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes is right. There are only two of them here. If he is forcibly killed by the other party, he will point out that the other party did it without evidence. Although he was a temporary team commander, he did not really establish his prestige. And, stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes is so confident, I'm afraid there is something to do. He is probably not alone, or, he might have done an alibi long before he attacked and killed himself. When the time comes, as long as he kills himself and doesn't do it, then it's really unclear. Damn, doesn't this game have a red name mechanism? At this moment, Li Mu couldn't help but complain in his heart. Hee, don't delay, let's make a quick fight. Stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes snorted, raised the wooden knife again, displayed the skill charge, and rushed towards Li Mu. Li Emu's face changed, he hurriedly sought shelter from trees, and at the same time began to chant a spell. However, his skills were not instant after all, they were still half a beat. Seeing the tomatoes were fried with tomatoes, he abolished his right arm holding the staff. Blood is overflowing. Ha ha. Seeing Li Emu's head lowered a quarter of the blood bars for an instant, the corners of his mouth raised slightly when he sautéed tomatoes with tomatoes. However, before he could continue to attack, a system prompt suddenly appeared in the vision of all players. Open black lens bracket caveat. Caveat. Close black lens bracket. The player, fried tomatoes with tomatoes, maliciously attacked the player, Li Mu, and has been judged as a junior red player. Elementary red name penalty. In this state, the experience value is reduced by 50%, and the contribution rate is reduced by 50%. It can be attacked by all players. After death, the seized items in the red name state are recovered and forced to return to the original one. The elementary red name penalty lasts until the target dies. After death, the number of perfect resurrections is ignored, the level is forced down by 1, and the first red name death title is 24 hours. Open black lens bracket current kill reward. 50 contribution points close black lens bracket. Fried tomatoes with tomatoes. Li Mu. Is there a red name mechanism in elf country? Of course there is. As an old salted fish who has played online games for so many years, how could Eve forget this? In fact, he paid attention to this when he attacked and killed Li Mu with tomatoes. 26 divine blood crystals. Eve conservatively estimated that it would have at least 35 points when converted into divine power. He was also worried about accidents with such a huge property. If it weren't for not interfering with the game mechanics, www.mtlnovel.com, he would want to take back the blood crystal from Li Mu directly. Therefore, when Li Mu left Filunqui, Eve was also watching his movements, but he did not expect to see such a scene. Eve's heart also despises tomatoes, fried tomatoes. Although he would sacrifice to himself if he captured the blood crystal of the gods, he broke the rules of the game. At a certain moment, Eve even got the title of this guy permanently if he wanted to. However, as a game GM, he needs to consider more. The game is different from reality, and players cannot be united. In real society, there are countless laws, rules, and morals that restrict human life and maintain the normal operation of human society. But in the same way, this also makes humans lose some sense of freedom, especially the instinctive release of some creatures, desire, greed, violence, etc. Conflicts and wars accompany the history of mankind. The genes of killing and destruction are also buried in the bones of mankind. Although civilization has pulled out the fangs of mankind and made mankind more and more moral, the evil side has not been completely wiped out. Except. These things cannot be reflected when the rules exist, but once the rules disappear, they will soon be exposed. Game is the place where the other side of human nature is most easily stimulated. Because the game does not follow realistic rules. Not only that, for quite a few players, indulgence in the game has become a pastime for them. But the Kingdom of Elves is more than just a game. So, if Eve wants to make players obedient, he must also use rules to restrain them. And Eve's preferred rule is the red name mechanism. Chapter 47. Player Invitation. Looking at the system prompts passing by in the field of vision and the position of the red player marked on the system minimap, Li Emu's face was strange. He sighed and said, "Look at it, this game still has a penalty mechanism, why bother? I finally got promoted to Black Iron, 10,000 experience plus 200 contribution points. Fried tomatoes with tomatoes. Furthermore, at the moment you cut me down, I took the opportunity to turn on the video recording function. I think, you should also know the consequences of continuing to stick to it." Li Mu pointed to his system interface and said leisurely. Fried tomatoes with tomatoes. His expression is getting ugly. Now, he still really steals the rice. Seeing the constipation expression on tomatoes fried with tomatoes in Li Emu's field of vision, Eve also shook his head. Isn't it good to be an obedient little leek? You have to take a shortcut. Every chosen one consumes her power, and she will not let this group of players wantonly consume it. However, as a goddess who advocates truth, goodness and beauty, he will naturally not forget to give those children who make mistakes a chance to reform. Just when he was stunned by the unexpected system information prompt, a new selection box appeared in his field of vision. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The great goddess is merciful, she will forgive sinners who repent and think. As the chosen one by her, the plot is light, and she is willing to listen to your prayers. Option A. The great and benevolent goddess is correct, I will confess my sins. Deduct 200 points of contribution, return all looted items in the primary red name status, cancel the red name status. Option B. Although I admire the great goddess, I do not regret my choice. Deduct 100 points of contribution and maintain the primary red name status. Fried tomatoes with tomatoes. His expression is almost distorted. But, is there any choice? After all, players are creatures who seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. I saw tomatoes fried with tomatoes and took a deep breath, then under Lee Emu's surprised gaze, he gritted his teeth and said, "The great benevolent goddess is right, and I will confess my sins." Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. The player, fried tomatoes with tomatoes, chose to confess, deduct 200 points of contribution, and cancel the player's primary red name status. In an instant, a message was swiped across the game system of all players. And Lee Emu's field of vision has one more item, you get compensation from the player for tomato fried tomato, contribution rate plus 100. Lee Mew. Stir-fried tomatoes with tomatoes gave him a hateful look, then gave him a cold snort, picked up his wooden knife and disappeared into the forest. Seeing that the opponent had given up the interception, Lee Mew was also relieved, and at the same time began to heal his injuries with healing magic. Eve, who was watching behind the scenes, nodded with satisfaction, and fell into thought. Although the problem is solved this time, it is not the way to suppress the players in this way. Sooner or later, they will have internal conflicts. Sometimes internal conflicts need to be solved by fighting. It seems that it is time to put the PK system on the agenda. PK, or learning and flagging, is a common gameplay in MMORPG, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, and a large number of players are also very keen on it. There are even many players who play online games for PK to plant the flag. Or fight with other players. This kind of player is generally called a PvP player. Eve naturally considers adding this feature to the game system. After all, this feature will not only increase the player's enthusiasm for the game, but also train the player's combat literacy. And his current idea is to provide players with two PK modes. One is actual combat PK, which is to let players fight face to face with real swords and guns, regardless of life or death. This mode requires players to consume contribution to turn on, and as the player's level increases, the consumption contribution will become higher and higher. After all, Eve's resurrection of players is also costly. As the player's level increases, their fighting will cause more and more damage to the environment. Imagine that if there is a legendary strength among them one day, the two will not be able to destroy the little half of the fairy forest. Another PK mode is virtual PK. It was Eve who simulated a scene in his consciousness space, pulling the player's consciousness in and letting them wave. This mode does not require contribution. Players pray to Eve and Eve responds. This mode only requires him to construct some scenes in advance and set the corresponding response procedures in the game system. Thinking of this, Eve has decided to officially open the PK function to players after this mission is over. Has more divine power, and he can also support more consumption. Anyway, the player is Leek, but he is also the uncle. If Eve wants them to work hard for themselves, assist themselves in recovery, and help the elves regain their glory, naturally they must also meet their entertainment needs. Well, Eve thinks that he should be quite conscientious in making online games. He doesn't need Krypton gold, and he is not so liver. Golden Legend, this top weapon, only sells 64,800 contribution points, and a single brush of 1,296 goblins is enough. Without the player interception, Lee Mew, who had healed his injuries, also returned to the teleportation circle without any problems. He used a natural whisper, and soon found the oak tree guard lurking nearby, sounding asleep. NPCs also need to sleep, which players have already known. Not only that, according to Demacia, NPCs also need to wash, eat, etc. just like the players. It was just when Li Mu asked him how he knew, that guy couldn't tell why. A while ago, Saint Alice seemed to be more indifferent to Demacia. Ahem. Almost everything in this game is simulated, and it can even be said that it has been simulated to the point of madness. Sometimes Li Mu wonders if this is a game made by aliens. Standing in front of the oak tree guard, he hesitated for a moment, and decided to wake him up. Li Mu really didn't want to continue holding these 26 hot blood crystals. He poked at Basaka's wooden beard and said carefully, "His Basaka. His Excellency." The huge tree man turned over and continued to sleep. Li Mu. Lord Basaka. He shouted again. The tree man smacked his lips, and there was no movement at all. Li Mu. This guy slept so hard. He pondered for a while, picked a branch with leaves and barbs, and poked the tree man's nostrils hard. Perceiving the soreness in his nose, Basaka shook, and then sneezed severely. Was in a daze, and the oak guard woke up from his sleep. When he saw the smiling visitor clearly, he frowned. The chosen one, why disturb my sleep? And as soon as he finished speaking, he looked at Li Mu in surprise. Huh. It turned out to be black iron. This group of sky-chosen people advanced so fast. The oak guard is a bit weird. Li Mu smiled, modestly and honestly. It is the blessing of the goddess. I'm sorry to disturb you, I am looking for you to turn in the blood of God. God's blood crystal. Basaka's spirits refreshed, and he quickly stood up. This is about the recovery of Lord Mother God, www.mtlnovel.com, is the most important thing. For an instant, he didn't care about Li Mu disturbing his sleep. How many? Basaka's voice was expectant, and his big, piercing eyes looked at Li Mu hotly. Li Mu spread out his palms, and a full 26 crystals shining with natural light lay quietly there. A total of 26 pieces. 26 pieces. Basaka's eyes widened, and he subconsciously took a breath, somewhat unbelievable. The mother asterisk is on. There are so many. After finished, he looked at Li Mu with admiration and satisfaction. You did a good job. He carefully received the blood crystal from Li Mu, as if he had received a treasure in the world. After handing the sacred blood crystal to Basaka, Li Mu's heart suddenly moved, and he continued. Your Excellency Basaka, actually. I have one more thing. Okay. Basaka glanced at him suspiciously. Li Mu hooked the corner of his mouth and said sincerely. That's it. If nothing happens, we can eliminate all the goblins entrenched in the emerald tonight, and the elves will successfully regain the old holy city. Can you destroy all the goblins tonight? Basaka was even more surprised. He slept from the evening to the present, and he didn't know the player's promotion and transfer, so he didn't understand the player's ability changes. Li Mu nodded, and then recalled the prayer ceremony of the NPC. He drew a tree symbol of Mother Nature on his chest, straightened his body, and solemnly said. We would like to invite you and Lord Alice to participate in the ceremony of establishing a stable teleportation formation in the holy city of Phylunqui. Chapter 48. The smile fades away. Early morning. The golden sun slowly rises from the east, shining brightly on the entire forest. The saint of nature, Alice, finished her morning prayers, put on the saint gown she wore during the sacrificial activities, and came to the outside of the temple. Oak tree guard Basaka has been waiting here for a long time. He seems to be in a good mood today. He has a pair of big eyes and he is standing aside humming strange ballads, that he learned from the chosen. Alice saw the oak guardian, her emerald eyes showed a smile. Good morning, Lord Barthaka. She squeezed the corner of the priest's skirt, bowed to Basaka, and then drew a symbol of Mother Nature on her chest. May nature be with you. Basaka also bowed to the girl, her low voice with a touch of softness. Good morning, my Royal Highness, may nature be with you. After the two saluted each other, Alice looked suspiciously at the more and more players gathered in the square, curiously. What happened to them today? If as usual, the day chosen should start to ask her to apply for daily tasks. But today, for some reason, few people come to look for girls. They gathered in the square, seeming to be waiting for something, each of them looked excited. Basaka glanced at the players on the square, a glimmer of relief flashed in his eyes, and saw that he once again drew a tree symbol on his chest and said to Alice. His Royal Highness, Phylunqui, has been captured, and all the goblins have been expelled. What? The holy city, recovered. Alice's emerald eyes widened when he heard Basaka's words. She naturally knew the task of the chosen, but in her opinion, expelling the goblins from the holy city would be a long job, but she didn't expect the chosen to do it in such a short time. She vaguely remembered when she was a child, when she followed her mother to expel the goblins from the ruins of the elves. Those goblins were very cunning. You chase them away 1 minute before, and they will take advantage of you 1 minute later. Not ready to slip back. Yes, not only that, the chosen will formally establish a new teleportation formation in Phylunqui together, and they invite us to go together. Basaka's expression is full of piety. Restoring the holy city is a great honor for every believer in nature. They would invite us. Hearing what Basaka said, Alice's expression was a little complicated. To be honest, her overall impression of the chosen people is not good, and some of them even make her extremely disgusted. Although these days, the chosen people seem to have gradually become familiar with the world here and have begun to become polite. But Alice still disagrees with some of their bad habits. For example, treat the poor animals in the forest as food or something. The forest of the elves is extremely rich, and it is obvious that collecting berries is enough to fill your stomach. Why do you want to kill the creatures? Alice still cannot understand. However, since the mother goddess didn't say much about this, Alice also let go of her uneasiness. Because of her dissatisfaction with the chosen, she has never had the idea of interacting with the chosen. The chosen has been here for so long, and Alice doesn't even know what each of them is called. Yes, Alice can't see the player's name. The player's name is only displayed in the field of vision of the game system, so only the players will see the green names above each other, and the natives of the world of Segs cannot see it. Because there is no deep friendship, in Alice's view, her connection with the chosen is only to complete the mission of the Lord Mother. Because of this, Alice was surprised when she learned that the chosen had invited them to participate in the activity of building a teleportation array. The elves are proud. Invite other elves to participate in the celebration, which means expressing kindness and respect in the elven culture, and accepting the invitation means that one recognizes the other party. Thinking of this, Alice's expression is a bit complicated. She glanced at the gradual gatherings of the chosen in the square, and then thought about their hard work these days, with an inexplicable expression. Finally, the elf girl sighed and said, "I accept the invitation. Fairy Forest, Emerald. After a night of siege, all the goblins entrenched here have turned into players' experience points. After the last goblin hidden in the abandoned sewer was destroyed, the players received a system notification of main mission objective 3, destroy the goblin in the holy city of Emerald completed. Eve generously rewarded all players participating in the encirclement with 1000 experience points, 1 perfect resurrection times, and 500 points of contribution. Now, there is only the last mission objective left to establish a stable teleportation circle in Phylunqui. At this moment, the Dark Iron players who had stayed up all night have gathered in front of the Temple of Phylunqui. Under the command of Li Mu, they were lined up on both sides, waiting for Alice and other players receiving the main task, like 2 lines of troops under review. When Alice and the Oak Guard Basaka came to Phylunqui surrounded by other players, they saw this scene. The elf girl first glanced at them in surprise, then stretched out her hand and stroked the obscure stone tablet in the ruins, looking sad and pleased. Phylunqui, we are back. When I saw Alice and Barthaka, Li Mu, who had already greeted other players, quickly winked at everyone. The players looked at each other, and then said in unison. Welcome to your Royal Highness the Holy Woman and the Oak Guardian to visit Phylunqui. We have lived up to expectations and have successfully recovered the Holy Land from the evil goblins. Accept the review of the goddess here. The voice is very neat and loud, and at first glance, it was drilled in advance. Alice, who was taken aback, couldn't help but stretched out her hand. She covered her slightly opened mouth, and looked at these familiar and unfamiliar chosen in an incredible way. I have to say that at this moment, Alice was a little moved. Did they have a time when they were so sincere? Looking at the heartfelt smiles of the chosen ones, Alice has no doubt that they are equally happy and excited now. At this moment, www.mtlnovel.com, the girl's expression gradually softened. Thank you, brave chosen. She pinched the corner of her skirt, bowed deeply at the players, and choked slightly. In any case, they are also fighters chosen by the goddess. Maybe they have all kinds of bad habits, maybe they often make some incomprehensible actions. But in the same way, they can also become trusted partners. At this moment, Alice's perception of the chosen one changed. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Alice Hayate's favorability for you increased by 40 points. Barthaka's favorability for you increased by 40 points. In an instant, all the players who paid tribute received a prompt from the system. Seeing the system prompts, all the players' eyes lit up, and their expressions gradually became thoughtful. However, suddenly, a surprised and excited voice emerged from the crowd, breaking the originally moving atmosphere. Fuck. Brother Mew, you are really amazing. Really improved the goodwill of the young lady and the big guy. Lee Mew. All the players turned their heads and stared at the source of the words. And Alice and Barthaka were also attracted by the sound, and at a glance they saw the face that didn't look like a good person, and the mean smile. Is Demacia. The expressions of the two gradually became cold. Open black lens bracket ding. The friendship between you and Barthaka is reduced by 40 points to hate, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket ding. You and Alice Hayate's favorability decreased by 40 points, reaching disgust, close black lens bracket. For an instant, a new reminder message appeared in Demacia's vision. Looked at the system bar, his smile gradually disappeared. Chapter 49. Skyrocketing Power. Although the chosen can be partners, and the chosen can become good fighters, this does not mean that all the chosen are worthy of respect. At least, someone with a red explosive head is not worth it. At this moment, Alice and Barthaka had this idea at the same time. Not to mention Demacia, who was in a roller coaster mood. After everyone arrived, the ceremony of establishing the teleportation circle officially began. The temporary teleportation circle has been demolished by the cuckoo bird. After participating in the main mission, she thought that although she had learned a little taekwondo in reality, she was really not melee. So, when he changed his job, Cuckoo Bird chose to cross domains and became an 11th level elven mage, planning to follow the path of magic equipment manufacturing and magic array construction in the future. This time the construction of the circle was presided over by her. And the location of the magic circle was set in front of the dilapidated temple. Here, it used to be the sacred square of Fei Leng Kui, and it is also the place where the player defeated Ural's incarnation. In order to reduce the contribution, all the players present have formed a team, and Eve is too lazy to care about this. After Saint Alice held up the natural code and prayed silently in the direction of the world tree, the construction ceremony officially began. Cuckoo Bird took out the materials for the array, took a deep breath, and compared the drawings to start rebuilding. Hundreds of pairs of eyes watched her movements expectantly. Cuckoo Bird is meticulous, not slow or slow, so serious and careful, even the sage of nature Alice who is pointing to the side nods in secret. This female chosen is very talented in the circle. She couldn't help thinking, she even had a faint idea to teach the skills of drawing magic circles. With the structure of the cuckoo bird, the circular teleportation circle gradually took shape. Finally, along with a shining brilliance, a trace of magical power waved over from the circle. Successfully constructed the circle. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Main mission objective 1. Establish a stable teleportation circle in the emerald completed. All players who participated in the formation of the magic circle will receive a reward. 500 points of contribution. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket main mission. The Old Holy City has been completed. Close black lens bracket. All players participating in the main storyline will receive rewards. 5,000 experience points, 1 perfect resurrection times, and 500 contribution points. Close black lens bracket. In an instant, all players who took up the main mission received a new system notification. Success. The mission is complete. Ha ha ha. Looking at the rewards received, the players cheered. Alice, the Saint of Nature, and the Oak Guard Basaka were also infected and applauded as well. What accompanied the system notification was the change of background BGM. For a time, the BGM of the game system of all players also became cheerful. The melodious and pleasant tune makes people feel like walking in a lively classical city. This is the main city music selected by Eve. It is called the Emerald Morning. It is a folk music of the elves and is very beautiful. Now that the emerald has recovered, it will gradually be built into a new elven city in the future. The original plan of Eve was to build a new elven city under the world tree for players and indigenous believers to live in. But after discovering the ruins of Phylunqui, he changed his original plan. Now, Eve intends to use the elven town under the world tree only as a stronghold for the players, and make the emerald green into the home of the returning elves. This is the result of his careful thinking. The communication between the player and the indigenous people cannot be achieved overnight, and it is better to have a buffer space. Before, Eve could only control a radius of 10 kilometers at most, and could not bring Phylunqui into his sphere of influence. But it's different now. After obtaining the 26 blood crystals sacrificed by Basaka, his divine power instantly soared by 37 points. And the players cleared out all the goblins in Phylunqui, and also provided him with up to 10 points of supernatural power. Even if all the consumption is removed, Eve now has a total of 67 divine power points. Because he has not escaped from the near-death state, the current maximum control range of Eve is still 10 kilometers, but he can construct a new idol, and radiate a part of the area with the idol as the center, and bring it into control. This is a tricky method. He calculated that if he enshrines the idols in Phylunqui, it will just cover Phylunqui's temple and its affiliated areas. The total area of the holy city Phylunqui is nearly 30 square kilometers. If you want to cover it all, Eve will continue to restore strength. Of course, the indigenous believers have not yet returned, and Eve is not very worried. In the next step, his plan is to let the players begin to explore the emerald in depth. Phylunqui has been experienced for thousands of years. As the former holy city of the elves, many ancient books of the elven civilization were kept here. Eve believes that many clues should be found now. Although Eve inherited the inheritance of the world tree and also gained a lot of knowledge about the elven civilization, it was far from enough. Not only that, but Eve is also looking forward to discovering some professional training methods in Phylunqui. The player's promotion cannot always rely on his divine power, or kill other creatures to absorb vitality. The player's own training is also necessary. Otherwise, the genius talent that Eve had set for them would be wasted. Although Eve can endow players with skills and strength, he doesn't know much about the training of professionals. The inheritance of cultivation was unfortunately lost when he inherited the throne. Although as a true god, Eve can expend his divine power to promote the cultivation methods of professionals, but he does not have so much divine power to waste now. And Phylunqui gave him hope. In addition, when players practice, they will also give Eve a certain amount of energy back under the action of war sacrifices. This is a win-win situation. To sum up, it is urgent to explore Phylunqui. In addition to allowing players to explore the emerald in depth, Eve also decided to try to repair Hela's soul storage orb. It's just that after yesterday Eve's forceful withdrawal of the death power, the damage to the soul storage orb at this moment is more serious. Eve probably sensed that it would take him nearly 21 points of divine power, and it would take him at least 10 days to completely repair it. www.mtlnovel.com. However, after his research, if only the orb could bear it a trace of his own soul, it does not cost much, only 5 points of divine power. But that would greatly limit the power of the avatar built with the orb as the core. Fortunately, Eve does not ask for how strong the incarnation can be. He is not looking for a body, nor is it to transform, but a tool that can walk, and a small vest that is not recognized by others. It is used to deal with some things that are not convenient to deal with as a true god. And enjoy the feeling of freedom from time to time. In addition to these things, Eve also decided to recruit a group of new players again in the near future for the second closed beta. This time, he plans to recruit 900 people in one go. And some of the function completion of the game system, such as the PK system, he also plans to launch it in one breath with the second closed beta. After thinking about the near-term plan, Eve once again manipulated his supernatural power, preparing to give the players an exploration task first. But at this moment, his soul suddenly shook, and he felt a huge power of faith coming across the distant void. It was directly blessed on his body. In an instant, Eve's supernatural power suddenly soared again, rising by 18 points in one breath, reaching an unprecedented 85 points. Feeling the sudden increase in supernatural power, Eve was surprised. He took a closer look, and then was surprised to find that there were more than 200 green photons in his Godhead space. At the same time, countless murmured prayers came slowly, vainly, with anticipation, anxiety and hope. That is, a believer who belongs to her. Chapter 50. Elf Believer. Dark Mountain Range, located in the southwest of the Segs continent, bordered by the fairy forest to the north, the endless sea to the west, the fertile plain to the east, and the desert of death in the south. Because the obsidian in the mountains is extremely rich in storage, even the peaks are stained with a deep black, hence the name. However, due to the rugged terrain and barren land, the dark mountains have not become a paradise for animals and plants. They are just growing drought-tolerant shrubs and alpine meadows, as well as countless types of wild animals. But it is rumored that in the ancient times, the dark mountains were not barren. At that time, it was as rich and beautiful as the fairy forest, and even had another nice name, Emerald Mountain. But after a great battle, the sky fell apart and everything was ruined. Now, the harsh environment of the dark mountains is almost as famous as the Dead Desert. Except for the caravans who must climb over the mountains, and the dwarves and humans who try to find mineral deposits in the dark mountains, few people set foot here. In the northwestern part of the dark mountains, in a hidden valley. In the corner of the valley, a series of simple stone houses are arranged in a star shape, forming a small village. But even if the structure is simple, these stone houses are arranged very neatly and cleaned. Not only that, flowers and shrubs are planted around each house, which is enough to show the owner's love for nature. This is not easy in the dark mountains. In the center of the village, there is a small open square on which a simple high platform is built with stones and rattan. At this moment, more than 200 residents are gathering under the high platform. They are old and young. Everyone wears a linen hood that can hide their faces. They are thin and have numb and dim eyes. It can be seen that they have lived quite a lot. Hard. And the faintly exposed sharp ears and outstanding appearance declared their identity spirit. The elves sat together in twos and threes, looking curiously at the high platform. On the high platform, there are two elderly people standing. One of the elderly elves wore a gray sacrificial costume. His hair and beard were white, and he was full of vigor. It was Samir Hayate, the old priest sent by Eve to gather the elves. The other is an elderly female elf. Her name is Phylacere Flames, she is the head of this elven village, and she is also an old friend of Samir. The female elf glanced at Samir beside her, sighed, and said, Samir, I have called all the people of the tribe as you said. What do you have to say? Can I say it now? Samir looked at the more than 200 people in the audience with a very complicated expression. Are these all the flame tribesmen? Pharaohseer lowered his eyelids, his voice with a touch of sadness. There is only so much left. Hey, I didn't expect that the flame tribe, which once had a population of nearly 10,000, has declined to this point. Samir sighed, feeling sad. However, compared to the Hayate tribe whose tribe has completely dissipated, the flame tribe is already considered good. After hearing Samir's words, Pharaohseer's eyes became a little hazy. She forced a smile that was even worse than crying, and said, What can be done? Without the blessing of the true God, we are just homeless children. Let us be bullied. It is already very good to be able to find a hiding place in the Emerald Mountain. In the Segs world where gods exist, ordinary intelligent races without the blessing of true gods can hardly survive the struggle of all races. Especially, the elves themselves have a fatal attraction to other races. Lost their power and protection, their beautiful appearance, their long lifespan, their magical physique that day, all are coveted by other races. In addition, the elves are indifferent to the world, love peace and have a good nature. They are not good at fighting people fiercely, so in a series of conspiracy struggles, the race is getting weaker and weaker. The blessing of God. Samir's eyes flashed. Saw him take a deep breath and show a bright smile, his voice with a hint of enthusiasm and excitement. Actually, I came this time just for this. Okay. Pharaohseer looked at him in surprise. And until this time, the old patriarch of the Flame tribe realized that the old friend in front of him seemed to be faintly different from the image in his memory. Although he has not seen him for many years, Samir looks more energetic. There is a faint brilliance in his eyes, and he seems to be full of hope for the future. That is far from the gray old man I saw a few years ago. The numbness and despair in his turbid eyes disappeared. Pharosol's eyes narrowed. The Blast tribe of the elves is the most special tribe of all the elves. They shoulder the responsibility of offering sacrifices to the Mother of Nature and are also known as the priests. After the fall of the World Tree, the Haifeng clan was also the one that suffered the most and suffered the most. And as the elder of a clan, Samir Hayate, it can be said that he has completely experienced the process of the ups and downs of the Hayate clan. Every time she sees the other party, she looks sad and desperate. And if she remembers correctly, Samir should have been near the fairy forest, holding on to the natural sacrifice with the last natural saint, hoping to awaken the mother god. But now, Pharosol looked at Samir's vigorous and energetic look, as well as his hopeful and bright gaze, suddenly a thought that was somewhat unbelievable. Could it be? Her heart, which hadn't been fluctuated for many years, suddenly throbbed. You. She looked at Samir, her voice trembling, she seemed to be wondering something, and she seemed to be expecting something. Samir turned his head, smiled gently at his old friend, and then stretched out his arms. A brilliant holy light radiates from him as the center, with reassuring power and strong natural aura. The radiance is so bright, at this moment, Samir seems to have turned into a natural darling. That powerful breath of life swept the entire square in an instant. Feeling the huge natural power in the old priest's body, Pharosol's eyes widened and he lost his voice in shock. Silver. Silver priest. Silver priest. After the fall of the Mother of Nature, how many years have you not seen such a high-ranking priest? Silver is a watershed, only true gods can support a priest of silver rank. At this moment, Pharosol felt his old heart beating more and more violently like a young man. The idea that was originally absurd and full of endless hope has faintly pointed to a certain reality. This, she muttered, almost unable to speak to herself. The power of the holy light also attracted all the elves. Everyone raised their heads, shocked, and looked at the elders on the high platform. Seeing the gathered eyes, Samir smiled slightly. I saw him facing north, and piously painted a Mother of Nature symbol on his chest. www.mtlnovel.com. The voice is gentle and full of power. My compatriots, our true is, returned. He has issued a parable, summoning us to return to the forest of elves and rediscover our glory. After finishing speaking, he took out a golden leaf from his arms. It was the sacred object that Eve exerted divine power, the leaf of the world tree. I saw Samir holding up the leaf of the world tree, reverently inspiring its power. In an instant, the rich natural divine power spread. Wherever it went, the branches sprout, and 100 flowers blossomed. In a blink of an eye, the square was surrounded by clusters of flowers and lush vines. Seeing this miraculous sight, all the elves were in shock. It is natural power. This is natural power. An old elf recognized it, and his voice was full of excitement. And accompanied by the miracle, an ethereal and holy voice echoed in the air. Children, go home. Children, go home. The majestic voice is soft and beautiful, with a trace of sorrow, and full of endless vicissitudes, possessing a strange power to comfort people. This is a metaphor recorded by Eve in the leaves of the world tree. For an instant, all the elves felt a warm energy pouring into their bodies, and their bodies weakened by long-term wandering gradually regained their strength. With a thump, Pharosol subconsciously knelt down on the ground, looking at the shining world leaves, feeling the vitality in his body. 2 lines of turbid tears fell. Saw her raise her head, her expression surprised and sad. Mother, this is the power of Mother. He is back. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel Chapter 51, Eve's Doubts. It's Samir, he has found the remaining elves. After casting her consciousness on Samir, Eve quickly understood the cause and effect. After dozens of days of journey, this pious old priest climbed over the forest and mountains, and finally found one of the many races of the Elven Kingdom in the corner of the dark mountains, the Flame race. After showing the miracles and oracles, he successfully renewed his faith in this elven tribe. Perceiving the dots of faith photons in the Godhead space, Eve is very satisfied. Although most of these believers are shallow believers because they have just picked up their faith, only the faith level of the old patriarch Pharosol and some elder elves have reached the level of piety, but it is already a good start. The flame race is no better than the wind race. Eve is very pleased to have such a result. And when he listened to the prayers of believers and saw their living conditions over the years through their memories, Eve's heart became even more embarrassed. They wander around, hiding from hunting teams of humans and half-orcs. They lack food and can only rely on grass roots and bark to satisfy their hunger at the worst. I don't know how many old elves fell on the way of migration, how many young men died in the struggle with the enemy, or how many young elves died or were hunted by other races. Among the many elven tribes, the Flame clan with a population of nearly 10,000 is already a big tribe, but now there are only less than 300 people left, most of whom are old, weak, sick and disabled, and their average strength is less than black iron median. In these 1,000 years, the elves have suffered too much. Eve has no doubt that if this continues, maybe within 100 years, the elves will completely become history. You have endured enough. Since I have inherited the world tree, I will naturally bless you. Eve sighed long, and drew out a few divine power points, and gave the past across the void. With Eve's divine power, the flame tribes who had regained their faith suddenly felt a sacred brilliance descend on their bodies, warm and soft, and all the illnesses in the body disappeared in an instant. Everyone felt the renewed vitality in the body, and even the decayed old elves exploded with strong vitality. Not only that, they also faintly felt that some of the shackles in their bodies were broken, and the whole body and soul seemed to be more free. That is the imprisonment curse imposed by the elves after the War of the Gods, passed down from generation to generation, and also the culprit of the elves falling into the silver rank. After picking up the faith, Eve has the ability to get rid of the curse on them. Of course, because this curse is one-off, Eve's exorcism will not attract the attention of those enemies. And the strength of the elves has also been improved in an instant, and even a few directly broke through the ranks and reached the black iron mid-position. Of course, it only improved so much. It is not that Eve can no longer help them improve their strength, but because if they continue to improve, they will overdraw their potential. These indigenous elves are different from the players. They are all descendants of the original elves, not born directly from the world tree. Although they have the same millennium lifespan as the original elves, their talents are much worse. The players' bodies were created directly by Eve, belonging to the original elves. Not only that, their bodies have also undergone a certain transformation. Not only are they exceptionally talented, they are also able to withstand more of Eve's divine power, far beyond the natives. It's the goddess. This is the goddess of nature. Feeling the changes in the body, every elves of the flame tribe are excited. There are more elderly elves praying devoutly while crying bitterly. Master Mother God did not leave. Master Mother God did not leave. O benevolent Mother of Nature, our beloved true God, thank you for your favor. Praise the Mother of Nature, praise the Goddess of Life, praise the great elf master. Looking at the excited people, Pharosil was also in tears. She turned tremblingly, bowed deeply to the north, and then stood up with the help of Samir. Come back home. She looked at the people in the audience, her lips were waxy and the wrinkles on her face were shaking. Come back home. She repeated it again, her voice firmer and her eyes more religious. We go home. She yelled excitedly, and her trembling voice traveled far along with the elves' prayers. Far away. Comma comma. Comma comma. With the assistance of Samir, the flame tribe of the elves set off. This time, they are no longer wandering. This time, they are no longer confused. They have found their belonging. They are going home now. Perceiving the anxiety and excitement of more than 200 believers in the Godhead space, Eve sighed. Pred, what exactly did you do to be besieged by the gods? Are you really just being coveted by others for the priesthood and belief? At this moment, he became more and more curious about the truth of the divine battle thousands of years ago. Although Eve inherited the inheritance of the world tree and knew what his enemies were, Yu read www.uakanshu.com, but the memory about the cause of the **** war was vague, only talking about the dispute of belief. But seeing that the former Silver clan is now so miserable, Eve has to guess that this incomplete inheritance might really miss some key clues. It's just that these things are not what he can consider now, he can only recover his strength as soon as possible. The enemy will come back one day, and the truth will come to the surface one day. And what Eve has to do is to become strong enough before facing them, and then defeat all the enemies and stand back on the top of Segus. This will be a difficult process, but with the assistance of the elves and players, it is not impossible. Thinking of this, Eve's heart became more and more determined. The growth of the players, coupled with the return of some elves, can be regarded as double happiness. It seems that the second closed beta is also urgent, and the 300 players are already a little stretched. He pondered for a moment, and decided to set the time for the second closed beta 1.5 months later, also 10 days after Blue Star. This is set by Eve in conjunction with the return of the Flame Tribe. According to his estimation, the Flame Tribe will take about 2 months to return to the core area of the Elven Forest. At that time, new players will be cultivated. Help them settle down. As for the 300 players in the first test, Eve has already thought about new opponents for them. That is the tribe of orcs entrenched near the fairy forest. But before that, let them explore the sacred place of Phylunqui in depth, maybe there are any new gains. Thinking of this, Eve manipulated his supernatural power and sent a new task to the players. Main mission: explore the Holy City. Chapter 52, Player Guild. It has been 2 days since Phylunqui was recovered. After the players formally established a stable teleportation array and completed the first main mission, the subsequent plot missions also followed. That is to explore the old Holy City in depth, looking for the history left by the Elven civilization. However, not all players have chosen to accept this exploration mission. A part of players who like to fight have chosen to leave the safe zone after reaching level 11 to take risks in a wider world. To put it bluntly, it means Dogwai upgrade. Elf Nation is different from other games. The combat mechanism of this virtual reality game is very free. After the players are familiar with the rules, they will soon like this combat mode that is very close to reality. Adventure in such a game, they have a real experience of turning into mercenaries and hunters. Not only that, many players who are accustomed to fighting have even found that their resilience and responsiveness in reality have also improved after returning to reality. I even heard that someone used the skills in the game to subdue the gangster in a robbery. And this also makes the players more enthusiastic about fighting. In addition, the vast forest outside the safe zone also provides players with this possibility. Outside the safe zone, there are a large number of monsters in the fairy forest, and most of them are black iron grade, which is very suitable for players to train. Especially the monsters under the black iron. Of course, there are some powerful silver creatures in the forest, but such existences generally operate in the forests further north. It is said that in the far north, there are powerful creatures of gold and even legendary class. Of course, those legendary existences are not imaginable by current players. These news were all learned from Alice after the players racked their brains and tried everything to please Alice. Alice even taught them how to distinguish the traces of powerful beasts and how to avoid high-level monsters. All of this is due to the improved relationship between Alice and the players. After being invited by the players in Phylunqui, except for Demasia's accident, the relationship between Alice and most of the chosen people has improved. Especially those who participated in the selection of the Holy City, many people have reached a friendly relationship with her. In this case, Alice is finally willing to communicate with the chosen in depth. Not only that, Alice also took a fancy to the talent of Cuckoo Bird in the magic circle, and began to point her from time to time, envious of all the players. And Cuckoo Bird also became the first player to open the Alice branch, and became the first person to start learning the magic circle. At least the players think so. Phylunqui, in the ruins of an elf building. Li Mu was holding a torch that turned on and off, and carefully explored in the dark. As a player who loves the plot, he declined the invitation of other players, and instead of going to the wild adventure, he chose to complete the plot task. After the previous mission, coupled with the goblin scimitar, bow and arrow, and stick captured by offering sacrifices to the goddess, he has accumulated enough contribution points in exchange for 2 new skills. Cat's Grace and Bull's Power. The former is to enhance agility, while the latter is to enhance strength in all directions. As for equipment, well, being able to switch to 2 skills is already the result of his hard work, so don't expect more. He is not a tyrant who doesn't lack money. However, shortly after the players completed the mission, a new batch of weapons emerged in the exchange system. These weapons are mainly scimitars and bows, as well as some good-looking magic wands. They are exquisitely crafted and inexpensive. They only need 1 or 2,000 contributions. They are all blue rare equipment. Although their bonuses to various attributes are not comparable to the purple epic equipment, they are also higher than the goblin weapons captured by Li Mu and the others. Li Mu thinks this should be the official equipment for civilians. He plans to accumulate certain contributions to exchange for a magic wand. But then again, he always subconsciously felt that this batch of equipment was a bit familiar, but he couldn't tell where he had seen it. Maybe an illusion. Li Mu shook his head, and continued to explore the dim ruins. This is a large-scale ruin in Filunqui, far away from the Temple of the Holy Land. The entire ruin seems to have been a glorious building made of huge stones. Li Mu felt that only in such large-scale ruins could it be more likely to find the treasures left by the elven civilization. Regrettably, he has been exploring here for 2 hours, but found nothing. What's even more annoying is that there is a big tail behind him that keeps chattering. Brother Mu, why did you choose to explore the ruins? We have been wandering here for 2 hours and there is nothing. Demacia had a straw stick in his mouth, and followed Li Mu's mutteringly. I heard that Ben and they killed a 13th level rock wild boar in the wild, and they are almost up to 12th level. Hey, I said Brother Mu, why don't we organize a field activity? Demacia looked at Li Mu's back, her voice a bit resentful. As a taunting tank fighter, if he doesn't fight for a few days, he is a little itchy. The epic scimitar he changed hasn't seen blood yet. In order to exchange the scimitar, he even temporarily gave up learning the skills. Hearing what Demacia said, Li Mu frowned and said, no hurry, it's never too late to go when we finish the plot mission. But we have been exploring for 2 days, and Mao didn't find it. Hey, according to the plot, this place has been abandoned for nearly 1,000 years. Even if there is something, it is estimated that it will be ruined by the goblins. Demacia said while shaking her head. Li Mu thought for a while and explained. Since the plot is given to the mission, it is certainly not aimless. The harder it is to find, the more it explains the preciousness of this mission reward. To be honest, after walking around for 2 days, he was a little lacking in confidence. Sometimes Li Mu also complained a bit, the game planner was too crazy about Filunqui's plan. Designed such a large-scale ruin, the result is really a pile of ruins, except for the garbage left by the goblins eating and drinking Lazar, there is no root hair inside. Hey, there is that fried tomato. I heard that he also built a guild specializing in the field strategy. That proud, huh? Demacia pouted. I said Brother Mu, he didn't really want to grab the blood of God before, did he? I remember when the system warned him that he was attacking you. He asked curiously. Li Mu paused and said. If you have a chance to ask this, it's better to take a good look at the road, www.mtlnovel.com, to find out if there is any secret path or baby. He didn't deny it, and it can be regarded as acquiescing to Demacia's guess. Hey, I knew that guy was uneasy. Demacia sneered. Hey, when the guild war starts in the future, I will teach the guy who fried tomatoes with tomatoes a good lesson. That's right, guild wars. After completing the first dungeon mission, players have also formed guilds. The organization of the guild is conducive to enhancing the cohesion of players, and at the same time, it can also cultivate the ability of players to cooperate in teams. In addition, it can promote competition between players and increase the fun of the game. In order to allow players to complete tasks more efficiently, EVE did not drop this feature. Actually, even if EVE doesn't set up a guild, human beings like to hold groups by nature. When there are more people, they will form small groups. Instead of this, it is better for him to take the initiative and cultivate a united player guild for him to drive. The fourth natural disaster of Unity is the most terrible fourth natural disaster. At present, the guild has only opened a public chat channel and the function of mini-map sharing. In the future, EVE also plans to open virtual guild battles in the consciousness space and release various guild missions to further train players' combat skills and the ability to coordinate tasks. EVE's ultimate goal is to use the guild as the prototype to turn the players into a core where they can fight each other. To form a guild, it takes 10,000 contribution points. This is a huge sum of money, but if the players cooperate to raise money, it will be much less spread to everyone. And the internal beta players cooperated with each other to fight money together, and finally formed 3 big guilds. Chapter 53. You must have no friends, right? Closed beta players formed 3 big guilds. A guild named Nature Heart, led by Li Mu and Demacia, is also the guild with the largest number of players, with more than 180 players in total. The chairman of Nature's Heart is Li Mu, but Li Mu does not impose any requirements on the guild members, so it is considered a semi-casual guild. A guild led by Cuckoo Bird and Xiao Xian Miao, named Meng Meng Committee. The chairman is Xiao Xian Miao. Nearly half of the members are female players. There are more than 50 people, is a guild specializing in leisure and life. They are also the main force in the construction of the wizard town. And the last one is the First Legion, guild established by Tomato Fried Tomatoes. There are more than 40 people. The main attacker is fighting, and he loves adventure in the wild. He is a heavy liver emperor. Even though Eve doesn't like the player of Tomato Fried Tomato, but after the last warning, he also restrained a lot. In addition, this guy works very hard and respects NPCs. The team members are almost all heavy players, and the feedback provided to Eve is considerable. So he has a lot of great gods, so he doesn't care about this guy in order to see the after effects. In addition, although Li Mu is a good guy, Eve thinks that he is too lazy sometimes. Setting up a competitor for him can also stimulate his potential. In addition to them, there are some passers-by who have not joined the guild. The most famous of them is the number 1 master of all servers Bento. This cold fierce man pulled a few players, formed an adventure team to wave in the wild every day, experienced soaring, and was regarded as a big brother by a group of players. Even Li Mu looked at him with admiration. However, compared to spawning monsters, Li Mu now wants to know when he will find something in the ruins. He looked at the time on the system interface, pondered for a moment, and said to Demacia, "We will look for another hour. If we still find nothing, we will return temporarily." Go back. Good. Demacia suddenly opened her eyebrows and smiled. Hey, tonight it is said that everyone is going to have a bonfire party in Phylunqui. If we go back earlier, we can join in the fun. After the first day of the game, the players of Elf Country formed the habit of holding regular campfire parties. Is also the scenery of the fairy forest is too beautiful. Holding a party in this virgin forest, don't have a camping flavor far away from the world. Everyone was eating berries, and secretly barbecued while Miss Saintus was not paying attention, laughed together, played together, chatted together, just don't be too happy. Bonfire party. Li Mu's eyes lit up. If he remembers correctly, this evening party is to celebrate Fei Lenqui's resettlement of the temple. The previous temple was too badly damaged, and in the past 2 days, Cuckoo Bird has been busy repairing the temple with her construction team, which is said to be one of the tasks issued by the goddess. Now, it should be almost repaired, and I can worship the gods. Thinking of this, he nodded. Well, we'll go back in an hour, and ask Alice by the way to see if we can ask her for information about Phylunqui. Talking, Li Mu pushed aside the rubble in front of him and continued to explore. Alice. Demacia's eyes lit up, and her expression suddenly became mysterious. Saw him approach Li Mu's ear, he smiled, and said. I said Brother Mu, the game has been so long, have you figured out the punishment mechanism of this game? Hearing what he said, Li Mu raised his eyebrows and said. This game is highly realistic, so as long as you follow the rules of reality, you will generally not be punished. Said, he glanced at Demacia unexpectedly. You kid wouldn't be doing things again, right? Where and where? Demacia smiled wryly, then said. It's just that after the red name called the police, I was a little curious about it, and I found a few players in private to try it out. Try it. Yes, it's the red name mechanism. We tried it. This mechanism seems to be based on the player's amalicious and the degree of damage to other players to determine the red name, and it can be eliminated by contribution. And this punishment should be graded yes. According to our speculation, if you kill someone, the punishment may be very serious, and you may even be blocked. Demacia rode. Is that so serious? Li Mu suddenly felt unbelievable. Then he remembered that 2 days ago, it seemed that the news that Demacia became a red name drifted past the system for a moment, but soon it drifted past the system prompts that he had repented. It turned out to be like this. This guy is really idle. Li Mu was angry and funny. However, if it were the old man, he would have been looking for bugs like Demacia. Now with the game, Li Mu likes this game more and more, And gradually, he completely forgot about finding bugs. Not only that, Demasia's expression was solemn. We also tried against the NPC, and then found that we couldn't attack the NPC. After hearing Demasia's words, Li Mubai gave him a glance. Isn't this normal? If you can attack NPCs, wouldn't the game be completely messy? No, I mean, when we want to attack an NPC, we lose control of our body for an instant, and we won't regain control until the thought disappears. However, our current attempts are limited to young ladies and big guys. Quote. Demarsha shook her head. Li Mu. Did you try to attack Alice and Barthaka? The corners of his mouth twitched a little. Demarsha scratched his head. Isn't this a try? Then I found out that I can't attack them. Li Mu. You should be thankful that you can't attack them, otherwise I think you should have been beaten to return to level 1. He glanced at Demacia silently. Well, anyway, the goodwill between me and them can't be saved. I will try. I still have a few perfect resurrections. Demacia is authentic. Li Mu. Cannot attack NPC, this is actually Eve's setting. Originally, his plan was to also use the red name mechanism to restrict players' attacks on NPCs, but after thinking about it, he felt that this was still too unsafe, so he simply prohibited players from attacking NPCs. To be more precise, the player cannot attack his followers. When the player has the idea of attacking the believer of nature, he will lose control of his body. The reason why Eve can do this is because there is a channel to contact the player and the believer in his Godhead space, and he can perform certain micro-operations to set the system program, and terminate his consciousness in advance when the player becomes hostile to the believer. Body control. As for other intelligent creatures besides believers, there is no way. If there are other natives who are close to Eve in the future but are not natural believers, Eve can only rely on a strict punishment system to restrain players. As for why the attacks between players are not restricted, there is a reason. The relationship between players is not as simple as between players and NPCs. UU reading www.uikinshu.com forcibly guarantees peace between players, which is actually not a good thing sometimes. Because some players who have conflicts have ways to pull each other back, and forcing peace also means that there is no punishment. Instead of this, it is better to set up a red name system. If the player makes a big noise, he will be named and left, which can be regarded as eliminating the factors of instability. There is a hint of fishing law asterisk. As for those who can be corrected, they are given a chance to repent and find by the way. Well, Eve thinks she is still quite generous. Not only that, it does not limit the attacks between players, but also allows players to give full play to various sorrow operations. Such as bitter tricks, sacrificial streaming games. Listening to Demasia's temptation experience, Li Mu reluctantly patted him on the shoulder. Demacia. Okay. Demacia looked at Li Mu shiningly. What's wrong with Brother Mu? Li Mu glanced at him with a faint voice. You must have few friends in reality, right? Demacia looked surprised. How do you know? Li Mu. He didn't answer, but shook his head helplessly, sighed, and continued walking. Demacia touched her nose in a jealous manner, and followed it step by step. But just after 2 steps, he tripped under his feet and almost turned somersault. I'm going, what? He cursed, subconsciously lit with a torch, and saw a broken stone slab full of strange words. What is this? He picked up the slate curiously. Chapter 54. The Secret of Slate. It was a gray slate with a layer of gray stained on it, and some faint words could be vaguely seen. Demacia picked up the slate and his eyes lit up. Brother Mu. Brother Mu. Come and see what this is. Is this elf text? He quickly greeted Li Mu in front of him. Huh. Elf text. Li Mu stopped and turned to look at Demacia, who was holding the stone slab aloft and excited. Let me take a look. He took the slate, wiped the dust off it, and observed it. The slate seems to have passed for a long time, and the text on it is no longer clear, but Li Mu, who has always had a good memory, can still recognize it. These strange texts seem to have the same origin as the inscriptions outside the Phylunqui ruins. Maybe, it's the wizard text. He was overjoyed. Text is the bearer of civilization. No matter what is written on this slate, it will be a major discovery for them. And the most important point in the quest to explore the emerald is to find the classics of elven civilization. Where did you find it? Li Mu couldn't wait to ask. Ahem, I tripped over this thing, I picked it up and saw it, right there. Demacia pointed to the ruins aside and replied. Li Mu. What kind of luck is this? He took a few steps towards where Demacia was pointing, squatted down, and lit with torches. When the fire shone, Li Mu was surprised to find that there seemed to be more slabs buried here. He had been talking with Demacia just now, but he didn't notice it on the way. If Demacia hadn't stumbled, maybe they would have missed it. Demacia. We may have found something good, come and help, turn out these slates. Li Mu said excitedly. Most of the stone slabs are covered by ruins, only one corner is exposed. If you want to see the whole picture, you have to dig out all of them. Good stuff. Demacia was stunned, and then he looked happy. Fuck. Didn't it really crash some ancient books? Will there be treasure maps and exercises? Don't be why, come and help. Li Mu put the torch aside, carefully digging out the slabs of stone from the ruins, and commanded Demacia. Good lay. Good lay. Demacia also squatted down quickly and assisted Li Mu in digging for treasure. It took them a full half an hour to dig out all the slabs. I don't know. After counting the number, Li Mu was surprised to find that they had dug out 73 slabs. Each stone slab is about 1 centimeter thick, the size of a washbasin is square, and it is engraved with dense mysterious text. Unfortunately, most of the slates were broken, and many of the writings were blurred. The relatively complete slates were picked out by the two. Looking at these 6 slates, Li Mu was excited. He pondered for a moment and said, let's hide the remaining slabs first, and then bring the 6 more complete ones back to Filunqui, and ask Alice to verify what is written on them. The text of the elves has not changed much in the millennia. Players can't understand the text of the elves, but Alice, the saint of nature, can. Okay. Ha ha ha, hard work pays off. We finally found something. I just don't know if this is a treasure map or something. He, maybe this follow-up story will be inspired again. Demacia is excited and authentic. The two placed the remaining slabs in the corner, buried them with other waste, and made a mark on one side, and then happily took the 6 selected slabs and left. The central temple of Filunqui. After 2 days of repairs, the originally dilapidated temple has been given a new look. Repairing the temple should have been a long process, but the existence of magic has greatly accelerated this process. In just 2 days, the players will almost complete all the work. At this moment, Cuckoo Bird is taking some players for the final decoration work. For this reason, they even specifically referred to several famous churches in Europe to decorate the originally solemn natural temple more holy. This is not only their hobby, but also a task assigned by the follow-up plot of the Holy Land. The rewards are quite generous. Put these flowers and plants under the windowsill of the temple, and then use natural magic to take root. After giving an order to a guild member, Jiyu Gunyao continued to look at the drawing. Hi, Cuckoo Bird. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. She frowned and raised her head, raising her eyebrows when she saw the person coming. Brother Mu. It is Li Mu and Demacia who have returned. At this moment, the expressions of the two are very excited, and the slates in their hands are also quite eye-catching. Cuckoo Bird automatically ignored Demacia next to Li Mu, looked at the slate in Li Mu's hand, and his eyes lit up. Did you finally find something? Li Mu took Demacia and picked up ***** in the ruins for 2 days, all players knew. Li Mu nodded, showing a bright smile. That's right. I found the slate on which the text was recorded, and I will ask Alice to identify it. Text. Cuckoo Bird raised his eyebrows. Hey. Li Mu took out a stone slab and motioned to her. I have read these texts. They are very similar to those in the temple. I guess it should be the wizard text. Cuckoo Bird showed an expression of interest. She leaned her body forward and moved her head over, carefully watching the words on the stone slab with a focused expression. Silver calendar, elves, celebration. She frowned and read each word. This seems to be about an elf celebration. Cuckoo Bird thought for a while and made a judgment. Li Mu and Demacia were stunned. You understand. Demacia stuttered a little, and looked extremely surprised. Cuckoo Bird glanced at him, looked at Li Mu, and explained. I'm learning the knowledge of Magic Circle with Alice recently, and the Magic Circle layout of the elves must use elves, so I am also learning elves. So, is this really wizard text? Li Mu looked happy. And then I thought of something, looking at the cuckoo bird's expression a little strange. Wait, you have only studied for 2 days, right? Does this understand? Cuckoo bird frowned, and shook his head somewhat depressed. No, the elves are too difficult, with a vocabulary of tens of thousands. I have spent 2 nights and only learned more than 1,300 words. These words can only be read out at most 1/2 said. She sighed helplessly, looking very disappointed. Li Mu. De Marcia. The two of them looked at each other and were speechless for a long time. Is this the power of Shuiba? 2 days. This is only 2 days. Cuckoo bird is terrible. Is worthy of being a student of Jinghua University, playing games and learning new languages. Li Mu has learned about elves. It's a completely different system. I heard that there are 72 letters alone. I don't know which convulsions are planned. I have nothing to do to create a set of characters with a complexity comparable to Chinese characters. Come. However, for some plot parties and rational parties, this is another surprise. Looking at the regretful expression of Cuckoo Bird, Demacia sighed to the sky. Hey, I have never had a chance to learn from the magic circle in my life. www.mtlnovel.com. What magic circle do you learn as a fighter? Cuckoo Bird gave him a white look. De Marcia. Li Mu coughed dryly, and quickly handed the remaining 2 stone slabs to the Cuckoo Bird. Cuckoo Bird, you can help me see the remaining 2 pieces. Cuckoo Bird nodded and took it, carefully identified it for a moment, and said. It seems to be related to the history of the elves. I don't understand the specific content. It's not a treasure map. It's not a secret technique. De Marcia asked quickly. It seems not. Cuckoo Bird shook his head. In an instant, Demacia became a frosted eggplant. Oh my god, is it really a bunch of tatters? Li Mu was also very disappointed. He sighed and handed the 3 slates in Demacia's hands to the girl. Cuckoo Bird, there are 3 more, please take a look too. Cuckoo Bird took it. This seems to be about history. After a while, she returned the first stone slab to Li Mu. This too. Soon, she returned the second piece. For a moment, Li Mu and Demacia both felt a little frustrated. However, after a long time, Cuckoo Bird did not return the 3rd stone slab. What's wrong? There is a problem with this one. Looking at her frowning brows, Demacia's heart jumped and asked curiously. Cuckoo Bird shook his head, looking at them with a strange expression. Do not. She looked at the slate carefully again, and said with some uncertainty. This piece seems to be a meditation. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel Chapter 55, Elemental Meditation. Meditating Thoughts. Li Mu and Demacia were stunned at the same time. Demacia's eyes lit up. In other words, the martial arts cheats in online games. The Cuckoo Bird took a closer look at the slate, nodded, then shook his head. It's not quite like it, it's more like talking about how to exercise magic. Hey, that's a cheat. De Marcia slapped his thigh and looked excited. The release of certain skills by the wizard warrior also requires mana, and it is still useful for him to exercise mana. Exercise your magic. Li Mu also shines. As a druid, magic is of course the source of his power. However, I can only tell a rough idea. The specific content is estimated to be verified by Alice. Cuckoo Bird said. After speaking, she hesitated for a while, and asked a little embarrassedly. That, if Alice promises to help you analyze the content of the slate and teach you how to exercise, can you teach me then? She is very curious about the content of the slate of this suspected meditation, and she is also a mage now. If it is really about the meditating idea of the mage, it will be quite useful to her. Li Mu and Demacia looked at each other and smiled, and replied readily. No problem. Then, they took the slate and hurried to find Alice. In the side hall of the Temple of Nature. Meditating Thoughts. Hearing Li Mu's words, the elf girl who was scrubbing the idol stopped. Alice turned around, took the slate in Li Mu's hand, and began to examine it carefully. After a while, she looked happy. It is indeed a meditation thought, and it is an elemental meditation thought, that the elves have lost. It can be directly used in silver. The elemental meditation thought is a very effective meditation thought. It is said to increase magic power and elemental affinity. Is really a meditation. And even silver can be used all the time. Li Mu and Demacia look overjoyed. You know, the current version of this game is capped at level 40, and level 40 is only the top of Dark Iron. Can use silver, doesn't it mean that the next generation version can be used? It's a powerful thought. Then, how many rewards are there for these slate tasks? Also, can we learn this meditation? They asked expectantly. Alice looked at the slate for a while, and shook her head. No way, some of the key information on this slate is not clear, so I can't restore the meditation thought. As for how much rewards can be given, I am not sure, everything must be sacrificed to Lord Mother God, I will know later. After so many days of getting along, Alice already knows that there seems to be some kind of connection between the Mother God and these chosen ones, or a deal. When the Daisy Lector completes the task, the Mother Goddess will give them strength. This also made her understand why the chosen would still work so hard even though he has no faith. Most of them seem to have a strong pathological pursuit of power, and they desire more power than human beings. Can't restore. For an instant, Li Mu and Li Mu were as if they were splashed with cold water, and their hearts were cold. Seeing Li Mu's lost expression, Alice hesitated for a moment, not sure. But, maybe the Mother Goddess has a way to repair it. If you want to restore it, pray to the Mother ***** when you sacrifice to the Mother God. After, she glanced at Li Mu, and she also had some thoughts in her heart. Maybe. Is this an opportunity for the chosen to accept nature and become believers? Pray to the goddess. Li Mu and Demacia looked at each other, and their hearts moved. They didn't think of the idea of Alice's mission, but their brains made up more. Demacia approached Li Mu's ear, and said excitedly. Plot mission. Brother Mu, I guarantee with my experience in opening the main storyline. This is definitely a hidden plot. Maybe the reward is the idea of thinking. After listening to Demacia's words, Li Mu was also looking forward to it. In fact, his opinion is similar. The two looked at each other and clicked at the same time. In this case, please Alice-sama lay down the sacrificial circle to help us complete the task. Li Mu respectfully pleaded with Alice. Alice nodded. Wait a minute, I'll be ready. The true ***** and the believer have such an advantage in the same plane, that is, the cost of sacrifice is quite low. Not only does Eve spend less supernatural power, but the believers also consume less. So as long as he doesn't feel annoying, he can let nature believers sacrifice and play every day. Soon, Alice drew the sacrifice circle. After praying in the direction of the world tree, she began to pray to Lord Mother God for a response. At the moment Alice prayed, Eve felt the trembling of the photon of faith. He stopped the work of repairing the soul storage orb, and curiously turned his attention away. Is it Alice? Is this something to sacrifice? Thinking like this, his heart moved. Could it be, did the players really find something in the ruins? Thinking of this, Eve opened the sacrifice channel and accepted the sacrifice from the Saint of Nature. Along with a burst of light, several slates appeared in his godhead space. Slate. Eve looked curiously. It turned out to be the history of elves. She was a little surprised. One more thought. Eve was surprised to see the content of one of the slates. With a training method, even if it is broken, Eve can easily repair it with his own strength, without spending too much divine power. Not only that, if he wants to, he can go a step further and use the existing meditation as the main body to deduce a higher quality meditation. Of course, the current Eve did not intend to do this. The players are not high level, and it is enough for them to spend a few fractions of divine power to repair the existing meditation thoughts. Thinking of this, he used his divine power to repair the meditation on the spot, and he restored it in a blink of an eye. These two players did a great job. Looking at the elemental thoughts in front of him, Eve was very satisfied. He happily used his divine power. Soon, Li Mu and Demacia saw a system box for completing the task, and everyone was rewarded with 3,000 experience points and 500 contribution points. Is it over? Looking at the system prompt in the field of vision, the two of them were a little surprised. And Alice quickly winked at Li Mu. The sacrificial channel is still open. Mother Goddess can hear your prayers. If you have any wishes, please tell me. www.mtlnovel.com. Hearing Alice's reminder, Li Mu's eyes lit up. He quickly learned how a girl kneeled on one knee, and drew a symbol of Mother Nature on his chest, with a pious expression on his face. Praise the Mother of Nature, praise the Goddess of Life, praise the great elf master Uktrahir. Beautiful and noble Goddess, we hope you can help us repair the meditation principles and teach us the methods of meditation. In the dark, Eve heard the prayer from Li Mu. He was taken aback for a moment, and he pondered for a moment, and then he quickly figured out the cause and effect. Looking at Li Mu's similar prayer movements, he laughed. These fellow villagers really adapt quickly. Although it's just acting, but Li Mu's expression really looks like a believer. But then again, even if Li Mu didn't pray, he planned to perfect this meditation and pass it to the players. Eve is not worried that the practice methods of the world of Segus will affect the reality of Blue Star after being passed on to the players. Because the energy level of the Blue Star is too low, it can't support the players' cultivation at all. If the players practice in reality, it is at best to keep fit. Of course, it is also paid for teaching it to players. Originally, Eve's plan was to put it in the exchange system for players to redeem, but now that Li Mu prayed to pass the law, thinking of his identity as the discoverer, Eve decided to pass this set of meditation ideas directly to the two of them. Well, as discoverers, you should have enjoyed the results of discovery. Thinking of this, Eve translated the perfect meditation idea into Chinese, and sent it to Demacia and Li Mu's system, and formally activated the exercise conversion function and auxiliary practice function that had been prepared. Chapter 56. Players Practice. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. The benevolent goddess has listened to your prayer. As a reward for finding ancient books, she will teach you elemental meditation. You gain magic training method, elemental meditation idea. You unlock the auxiliary practice function. Currently you can load the exercise, elemental meditation. With the beautiful sound of the system, Li Mu and Demacia's game system bar immediately unlocked the exercise function, and there was also a magic exercise method, elemental meditation. They can click to view at any time, and practice with the aid of the game system. It's done. The two were overjoyed. Then, a few purple system messages drifted across the field of vision of all players. Open black lens bracket notice, close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the players, Li Mu, and Demacia, for finding the precious epic practice ancient book, Elemental Meditation. Elemental Thoughts, has been put on the Redemption Mall, and the Elf Country practice function is officially opened. Close black lens bracket. As the discoverer of ancient books, the players, Li Mu, and Demacia, will receive a 1-year redemption rake for Elemental Thoughts. The rake rate is 0.5%, and the rake time is calculated in the game. All players will enjoy a 50% discount within 1 year of the exercises on the shelves, and the discount time is calculated in the game. Turn on the practice function. Is the exercise on the shelves? Rake. Li Mu and Demacia were stunned at the same time. They hurriedly checked the redemption system and found that the exercise redemption page appeared. But there is only one purple epic, Elemental Thoughts. It turned out to be an epic technique. Li Mu sighed slightly. He clicked on the detailed explanation of the exercise. Elemental Meditation Ideas, Purple Epic Magic Training Method, which can exercise magic and elemental affinity, can be used to the top of silver, level 70, contributors, Li Mu, Demacia. Exchange requirement, 5,000 points contribution, 50% off. In order to allow players to exchange exercises quickly and enter the cultivation state, Eve did not set the exchange price of exercises very high. Now the contribution function is officially opened. Players who reach level 11 can get a certain contribution even if they do some daily tasks. So as long as you are willing to live, everything is possible. Not only that, Eve has also set up an auxiliary training system. Any genuine exercises exchanged in the exchange system can be assisted by the game system to speed up the improvement. As for those, pirated, privately taught, there is no such benefit. Well, it's as if only the original readers of the starting point and the bookstore can enjoy this chapter of the online article. In addition, in order to inspire the players' enthusiasm for finding exercises, Eve also set a bonus for the discoverers of exercises for 1 year. That is to say, as the discoverer of the exercises, within 1 year after being put on the shelves, you can get a rake on the contribution of other players to redeem the exercises. Of course, this time is calculated according to the time of segs. If converted to blue star, it is 3 months. In this rake, Eve set 1%. If 2 players find jointly, it will be divided into 0.5% per person, and so on. For example, as the discoverer of elemental meditation ideas, in the next year of the game, whenever someone spends their contribution to redeem this technique, Limu and Demacia will each get 25 points of contribution to make. Accumulate less and make more, this is a lot of income. After figuring out the mechanism of the entire exercise function, both Li Mu's breathing became heavy. Posted. Brother Mu. We post. Demacia looked excited. You know, there are still 67 stone slabs waiting for them to bring them back. Although only one of the 6 pieces brought back is an exercise method, who knows if the remaining ones are exercise methods. Li Mu also thought of this, and saw that he took a deep breath and said to Demacia. Go. Let's find a cart, and quickly go to pull the slate. After speaking, the 2 happily borrowed a simple wooden wheelbarrow from Cuckoo Bird, pushed it and ran away. When the new system news was announced in full, all players were shocked. I'm going. Demacia again. When did this guy get so lucky? Cultivating exercises. Take a look. Elemental meditation, can exercise magic power. 5,000 points contribution. I have liver pain. I only give 50 points after doing a daily routine. I'll go, don't Demacia and the others want to make a fortune. How about, let's go to Phylunqui to explore and explore. Originally, because of the higher experience gained from hunting monsters in the wild, many players who couldn't find anything for a long time after taking on the exploration mission gave up and changed to adventure in the wild instead. But the discovery of Li Mu and Demacia was like a pebble thrown into the calm water, which once again set off the waste-picking fever. For a time, a large number of players returned to Phylunqui and began the mission of exploring the holy city. Everyone imagined that they were lucky enough to pick up 1 or 2 exercises. It's best to be epic or even legendary, then make a fortune in one go. And after Li Mu transported the remaining slabs back to the temple, they pushed this exploration fever to a new climax again. After Alice's appraisal, in addition to the elemental meditation thoughts, the stone slabs they brought back contained 7 sets of other exercises. 3 parts are suitable for strength training, 2 are suitable for spell casting training, and 1 is dedicated to magic formations, and the other is dedicated to magic tool manufacturing. However, the level of these exercises classics is a bit lower than that of the elemental meditation. Except for the slabs made of magic tools that are blue and rare, the others are all white. But even so, it takes 800 to 2,000 contributions to redeem these exercises. Through donating these techniques, Li Mu gained a lot of experience and contribution, and they were promoted to level 12 on the spot, envying a group of players. After Eve perfected these techniques and put them on the shelves, all the players couldn't wait to start the exchange, and they tried meditation and exercise. After turning in all the slates, Li Mu temporarily stopped exploring. People's luck is limited. He feels that he is lucky enough to find so many treasures this time, and the addition of more players makes him decide to stop temporarily. He wants to try the meditation effect. Found a clean corner in Phylunqui, Li Mu sat cross-legged, and chose to load elemental meditation ideas in the game's auxiliary training system. As the system was loaded, Li Mu felt that he had a better understanding of this meditation for a moment, and that state was as if he had studied meditation for countless times. He began to adjust his breath according to the description of the meditation, and operate the magic power, and there is also a special force in his body to assist his operation, so that he can enter the state better. After entering the meditation state, Li Mu felt that his whole mind became calm. The various magical elements floating around his body began to gather around him, rushing into his body, enhancing his magic power, and his physical fitness gradually became stronger under the tempering of magic power. Genius-level talent, coupled with the support of the system, even if half of the training effect is taken away by Eve, the player's training speed is quite terrifying. www.mtlnovel.com. This state continues until 2 hours later. It gradually stopped. Li Mu opened his eyes and began to check his own state. Afterwards, he was surprised to find that his experience value has been raised a lot, and his physical fitness and magic capacity have also been slightly enhanced. The effect of training is very strong. The benefits are very large. Perceiving his own meditation effect, Li Mu felt happy. If I continue at this speed, even if I don't do anything, I will spend all my time in cultivation every day, so my level is probably going to rise. However, after carefully sensing his own state, he shook his head again. No. It's impossible to practice all the time. The effect of this rapid practice can only last for 2 hours a day, and the effect will be small after 2 hours. It is naturally impossible for players to practice all day long. Not only the players, but even the natives of the world of Segs, there is no way to meditate all day. The body's bearing capacity is limited. Generally speaking, 2 hours of practice a day is the best time. Therefore, Eve's setting for the training assistance system is also to run for up to 2 hours a day. After this, players can still explore and practice on their own, but the effect will be greatly reduced. It is better to do some tasks or brush monsters. Since then, the players of Elf Country have added a new daily task after going online every day. Practice for 2 hours. The practice of the spell casting system is meditation, while the practice of the power system is exercise. Cross-legged meditation and exercises have become a beautiful landscape in the fairy forest. And as the players entered the training state, Eve finally began to taste the sweetness of cutting leeks. Chapter 57. This is not a bug of sacrifice, is it? The discovery of Li Mu and Demacia can be regarded as a good start. After this, players have successively discovered elven classics and lost handicrafts in the ruins of the Emerald Green. Not only that, some people have dug up some elven equipment thousands of years ago. It is a pity that after thousands of years of burial, these equipment has long been destroyed and scrapped, especially the magic equipment, which has long lost its magical aura, and the inscriptions are all destroyed. It is simply turned into a pile of scrap copper and iron. In the natural temple of the fairy town, a male player carrying a few pieces of elven equipment excavated from the ruins, is talking with the saint of nature Alice. What? Can't these items be sacrificed to Lord Goddess? Looking at the broken old antiques in his hands, he asked disappointedly. This is what he found after exploring the ruins of Phylunqui for a long time. Alice sighed and explained patiently. How can the mother goddess be so honorable? How could he accept these things? Sacrificing these things to the true ****** is a blasphemy against the crown. That. Miss Alice, I'll try to sacrifice, what do you think? We sacrificed the goblin equipment we captured before. If it doesn't work, I will give up. The players are not reconciled yet, and fight for Dao again. After listening to him, Alice's expression gradually faded. She said angrily. The chosen one, even if you are not a natural believer, you must have the most basic respect for the crown of the Mother God. The items that can be sacrificed to the Mother Goddess are only the gods needed under the Mother God's crown, or there are oracles issued by him to find. He asked you to explore the emerald, in order to gather the inheritance of the elven civilization, to find the classics, not the useless scrap copper and iron. Before you did not get our consent, you privately mixed the goblin equipment into the sacrifice. The matter has passed, and the mother ***** has not pursued it, then I will not pursue this matter. But now you still want to repeat similar things, I will never agree. At the end, the girl's voice has risen very high and she has a firm attitude. A joke, although the mother goddess is friendly, he is also the true ***** of the highest. How can these broken copper and iron come into the vision of the true God? This is a blasphemy against the gods. Mother God Lord is supreme. He accepted the sacrifice of the chosen one before, and did not punish them for their recklessness. That is the tolerance and kindness of Lord Mother God. But this does not mean that I can condone these casual sacrifices. Thinking of this, Alice's expression became more determined. Her serious expression, coupled with the unique aura of the Silver Priest, suppressed the player a little speechless. The player's expression changed, and then he sighed. Okay. After speaking, he left the temple dejectedly. When he saw him come out, his teammates who had been waiting outside the temple immediately surrounded him. How about? Did the sacrifice succeed? And when everyone saw the old antique equipment in his hand, they were suddenly disappointed. Can't you? Miss Saintis is not willing. The male player shook his head. Why is this? Barthaka helped us sacrifice goblin equipment before. Ahem, Don't forget, that time we collectively activated the sacrifice circle depicted by him while he was asleep, and sacrificed ourselves. After he woke up, he made a big fire. Quote. What should I do? The players fell silent. After a while, there was a movement in the heart of a caster player. Since the previous sacrifices of goblin equipment can be successful, it means that sacrifices can still be made. Or, let's try to portray the circle and sacrifice ourselves. Can you describe the magic circle? Others asked. Ahem. I haven't portrayed it before, but I recorded the process of Alice's depiction of the magic circle while Alice was making sacrifices before. Maybe, we can learn to try. The mage touched the back of his head and replied. It sounds like you can try it. This game has such a high degree of freedom, what if it succeeds? Other players' eyes lit up. They just did what they said, so they packed up and found an open space to try. Alice and Basaka used a magical paint when they painted the magic circle. This kind of paint is produced on a kind of magical plant in the fairy forest. Players did not use it less when repairing the temple. So they just took a little thought and collected a lot. After preparing the paint, they followed the steps in the video and began to imitate the portrayal. Facts have proved that their ability to imitate is still very strong. After several failures, the players really drew a sacrificial circle exuding a touch of magical power. Success. They are happy. Do you remember the procedure of sacrifice? I remember. First pray. Then after getting a response, put the sacrifice into the circle. Well, then you try. Several players just said they would do it. Only one person stood up, learned that the NPC bowed to the direction of the world tree, and then drew a symbol of Mother Nature on the chest, and then respectfully prayed. Praise the Mother of Nature, praise the Goddess of Life, praise the great elf master Uktrahir. Beautiful and noble goddess, we have found the relic of the elf family and want to sacrifice it to you. Quote. Listening to his words, several players were ashamed. What is good is a relic, but what is bad is actually a pile of broken copper. Will the goddess respond? Their hearts are also a little out of touch. However, at this moment, the magic circle suddenly burst into full bloom, and it started to operate. A few players looked at them and they were overjoyed. I can go, really do it. The sacrificial channel is open. Hurry up. See if you can throw these things in. Several players were in a hurry. www.mtlnovel.com quickly put a bunch of ragged equipment they collected into the circle. As soon as they put it in, these waste equipment radiated a burst of light and disappeared. At the same time, the players who sacrificed were also prompted by the system to enter the contribution value, but the contribution was poor, only a few dozen points. Success. The players cheered. Although it is only a few dozen points of contribution, but at least this proves that even if it is broken, it can be exchanged for money. Isn't it a bug of sacrifice, right? Looking at the disappearing scraps, some players are unsure of the authenticity. What does he think? How does he think that the goddess would accept the sacrifice of broken copper and iron? A bit strange. The other players looked at each other and laughed. They patted him on the shoulder and said, "Why do you think so much? Whether it is a bug or not, just make money. Hey, there are still a lot of these broken equipment in the ruins, the accumulation of which is small. We can make a small profit even if we don't find the classics. Walk around, go and pick some more. Ahem, if it's really a bug, we have to make more money before the official discovers it, otherwise we won't be able to sacrifice the waste until the loophole is closed." Said, they rushed to the ruins of Phylunqui again. Above the sky. Eve easily repaired the broken equipment he received, added some special effects, and then threw it into the corner to save it. There are equipment to sell again. He is leisurely and authentic. Chapter 58. The Goddess of Scrap. Even if it is waste, it can be sacrificed. This incident soon spread among players. Although NPC will not let players sacrifice waste products, if players portray the sacrifice circle themselves, they can exchange waste products for contribution. Some big guys speculate that this should be a bug in the game's sacrifice mechanism. After all, how can the gods collect tatters? How can the goddess who is above the sky accept waste? So, something must be wrong. But some people think that this may be the mechanism of the game's sacrifice function. After all, games are just games. The gods in the game are not real gods. Perhaps, this kind of sacrifice is actually a kind of recycling mechanism of the game system, which is similar to the effect of selling waste products to merchants when playing online games. However, no matter what the reason, the players don't care. They only care if they can make a fortune. These damaged equipment cannot be swallowed by the sacrificial circle, and the system will also give players a little contribution. Although there are generally only a few dozen points, but the accumulation of small amounts is a lot of income. Perhaps in the eyes of Alice and Basaka, these expired discarded equipment only have a memorial value, and it is a great blasphemy to sacrifice these decadent things to the Mother God. However, the brave players don't care. What they lack most is contribution. There are ways to replace the unusable waste with contribution. They are very happy. Ahem, if this feature is a loophole, then they hope that the later the official discovery, the better. Or in other words, simply never post a patch. The players are very fortunate to discover this little secret. After the first successful case of a secret sacrifice, players have fallen into the upsurge of learning the sacrifice circle. On Bluestar's network, someone even posted a post to summarize the entire process. However, everyone did not discuss this matter on the official website of Elf Land. After the players learned to portray the sacrificial circle, they began to pray to the goddess with 2 NPCs on their backs, and secretly sacrifice the scraps they picked up. Woo! The main thing is to sacrifice some of the tattered equipment scoured in the emerald, as well as the animal bones left by hunting monsters, to subsidize the family. As for the classics, they still have to pass the NPC's hands. Because you will complete the exploration mission by offering sacrifices to the NPC, you can get extra experience points and contribution points. And sacrifice all kinds of tattered will not. However, after further research by the players, they found that the sacrificial circle is not swallowing everything. Is like broken classics, destroyed equipment, certain materials left after hunting monsters, and even minerals. Sacrifice arrays have always come to no end. But if it is broken handicrafts, domestic garbage, rotten bones dug out, berries picked, etc., the sacrificial circle is generally ignored. Over time, they dub the former as recyclable garbage and the latter as non-recyclable garbage. And as the players continue to explore and sacrifice, even the sky is also happy to bloom. During this period of time, he gradually accumulated a large amount of equipment in his godhead space. Most of them are purple epic, and there are even some golden legendary equipment. More than that, these equipments have everything from black iron to silver tiers, and even several sets of gold tiers. Eve estimates that if all these equipment are exchanged for players, it is estimated that they will have to hand in millions of contributions to themselves. And these equipment are all recovered from the players by Eve at the price of cabbage. That's right. These equipments were all refurbished by Eve after receiving the sacrificial scraps from the player, repairing them with supernatural power, and adding special effects. It is not easy to make a set of equipment with raw materials, but if it is repaired and refurbished, the divine power is very useful. If the repair materials are not enough, some players kindly sacrificed animal bones and ore. The elves have a wealth of 1,000 years of age. Many equipments are originally advanced equipment. Although mortals cannot repair them, the true gods can. However, I am afraid that no one would have thought that there will be equipment that the true gods can see in the world, and he bent down and used his divine power to repair. After all, in the eyes of the creatures in the world of Segs, the true gods are high, how can they pay attention to these things? In addition, the consumption of cross-border sacrifices is also very large. In the impression of many creatures, the heavens are the abode of the true gods. And this kind of large-scale recycling sacrifice, it is estimated that only Eve, whose real body and the sacrificer are on the same plane, can afford it. After Eve's renovation, these will be the products he will sell to players next. However, Eve did not put all the refurbished equipment into the exchange system, but first selected a batch of low-level mage equipment and golden legend equipment. As for the rest, he intends to wait for players to digest the equipment in the current exchange system, and then upgrade them according to the player's level, and slowly release them to the market in batches. This is called rational analysis of consumers' consumption potential and maximizing the company's benefits. Not only that, during this period of time, with the help of player activities, Eve also harvested a large number of classics and learned more about the history of elves thousands of years ago. It is a pity that these historical books still do not describe the secret of the magical battle thousands of years ago. Why is the world tree under siege? Why is the true asterisk 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 of the good camp without allies? The gods, are they afraid of something? Eve didn't know. However, he is not in a hurry, he believes he will always find clues. In addition, with the continuous contributions of players, the practice exchange system in the game system has become more complete. It took less than a week for the players to find dozens of incomplete exercise books from the ruins of Phylunqui. After Eve's repairs, these classics are all put on the shelf in the exchange system. However, most of the classics are blue rare and white ordinary versions, almost all of them can be used only at the black iron level. There are very few exercises that can use silver, there are only 3 in total. The elemental meditation ideas discovered by Li Mu and Demacia are the highest among them. This is not what Eve expected. When the elves are migrating, they must have taken away all the precious classics as much as possible, and the ones left are certainly not so important. There is an elemental meditation idea, which is already a fluke. Anyway, the basic disc is already available. UU reading www.uakanshu.com will end up personally when it comes time to spend divine energy to deduct high-level classics from low-level classics. When the player upgrades to silver, it is estimated that Eve's strength has also recovered a lot, and it is drizzled to consume a little divine power to deduce the follow-up exercises for the player. In short, everything in the fairy forest is developing in a good direction. The little leeks are also growing healthy and happy. The construction of Elf Town is officially nearing completion. The Temple of Phylunqui has also been repaired, and the statue of Eve is welcomed in. Not only that, the reconstruction of Phylunqui is also being carried out in an orderly manner. And the range of players' activities is also expanding as the level increases. The virgin forest of the fairy forest is dense and complex, and there are various monsters. Therefore, players are very slow to explore. Outside of the safe zone, players can only walk 30 miles a day at most. However, as time passed, some people gradually came to the edge. After some exploration, they brought back a lot of exploration materials. For this reason, players even spontaneously set up monster illustrated book, plant illustrated book, map sharing, battle strategy, and other sections in the information column of the official website forum. And, Elf Country, is also getting more and more heated discussion on the Blue Star Network. After the official release of the news of the second closed beta, the popularity of this epic masterpiece finally reached a climax again. The second closed beta, 900 places. Countless netizens flooded into the official website forums, rushing to register, hoping to become the lucky one to be selected. At the same time, Ural, the asterisk of winter and hunting, finally issued a new oracle to his followers. Chapter 59. The Oracle of Ural. This is a dim cave, and the torch on the wall illuminates the cave. On both sides of the cave, there are rough murals depicting the deeds of a 1,000-year war of gods, the legend of the gods joining forces and smashing the world tree and the elven civilization, which has been sung from generation to generation among the half-orcs. At the center of the cave is an altar made of skulls. On the altar, there is a rugged idol, which is Ullr, the asterisk of winter and hunting. In front of the statue of Ullr, a one-eyed elderly half-orc wearing a gray priest's robe was kneeling on the ground and praying piously. In the silent cave, only the silent prayers echoed continuously, solemnly. Suddenly, the idol burst into light, illuminating the originally dim cave with extremely bright light. The one-eyed half-orc raised his head tremblingly, his gaze at the idol was frantic and incredible. The oracle is the oracle. He knelt down on the ground with excitement, letting the majestic power brush over his body. The brain became blank in an instant, and waves of majestic and heavy voices resounded in the half-orc's mind. Check Phylunqui, elves, be careful, the beloved of death. After returning to the heavens, Ullr also thought about something clearly. Those elves are definitely not Hela's heroic legion. Because, they have flesh, but heroes don't. Moreover, if the heroic spirit legion appeared in the continent of Segus, it would definitely cause a strong backlash from other gods. Even Hela cannot be an enemy of the gods. Uktrahir's fate is an example. But even so, those elves must be related to Hela's favored ones. Because only Hela can make creatures immortal. And all this needs to be handed over to believers for further investigation. Hearing the voice of the gods, the old orc priest's body shook slightly, and he buried his head deeper. The chief priest of the orc cave tribe Giant Mountain, please follow the oracle. Then, the idol shined again, and a vague image appeared in his mind. It is a scene of hapless goblins being chased by a group of red-eyed elves frantically. And those elves, covered with all kinds of tattered equipment, looked like they had been snatched from goblins. As soon as the picture turns, another elves are photographed into flesh by a mysterious power, but in a blink of an eye they pop out again. Seeing this picture, the old priest's mind suddenly shocked. Elves. How could there be so many elves? What are they doing? They won't die. He couldn't help but lose his voice. The statue did not respond. For an instant, the old priest knew that he had lost his temper. He took a deep breath, and while kneeling on the ground, he stretched out his hand and drew a bow symbol on his chest. Praise the winter, praise the hunt, praise the great father. After a while, the light of the idol slowly disappeared. The old half-orc raised his head and found that his back was already in a cold sweat. The oracle is really an oracle. He murmured, his voice filled with excitement. Was able to receive the oracle, indicating that he was favored by the gods and watched by the gods. Took a deep breath, and the big orc priest Jushin suppressed the throbbing in his heart, thinking about the content of the oracle. What the asterisk is going on with that picture? He paced, frowning in thought. It's the forest of the elves. But don't most of the elves migrate? Where are so many elves? Are they attacking the emerald goblins? They won't die. Behind them is the favored of death. He knew that under the crown of the Father God, he recruited a group of goblins in the fairy forest, with the purpose of assisting him in finding the fallen mother of nature, the blood crystal of Uktrahir. In fact, as the chief priest of the nearest half-orc tribe in the fairy forest, he also contributed a lot in this process. Even if he looks down on those weak clown goblins very much. And now it seems that something has changed. The favored of death. Giant Mountain Priest Chief murmured. Could it be the handwriting of the underworld? Thinking of this, his expression gradually became solemn. It seems that it is necessary to send someone to investigate. Speaking of which, the Horde's stronghold in the fairy forest 2 days ago reported that 2 teams of orc mercenaries had disappeared. This time, I took the opportunity to investigate together. Took a deep breath, and the chief priest of the giant mountain left the ancestral cave where the gods were worshipped. Came to the outside of the cave, the surroundings were suddenly bright, and what came into view was a huge valley. The black mountain wall is shining brightly under the sunlight. And under the mountains, houses built of stones and straws surround the caves in a patchwork pattern. Looking around, there are no fewer than 1,000 seats. This is the half-orc tribe closest to the fairy forest, named Cave Tribe. The Cave Tribe is a medium-sized orc village with a population of 5,000. It is located at the southeast junction of the fairy forest and the Dark Mountains, and is more than 300 kilometers away from the core area of the fairy forest. The leader of the tribe is the chief half-orc priest Giant Mountain, a silver lower-ranked half-orc priest. Giant Mountain came to the village and looked at a clan who was walking through the village with a satisfied expression. When he was young, the Cave Tribe was just a small tribe with less than 1,000 people. The tribe has developed for so many years before it finally grows stronger with the support of the true God. Among them, the huge income brought by hunting elves is indispensable. Thinking of this, Jushin's expression gradually became solemn. If something goes wrong in the fairy forest, it will also be a heavy blow to the Cave Tribe. Sighed deeply, and a cloud of clouds passed between his brows. Call Black Stone over. He told his hand, www.mtlnovel.com. Soon, a sturdy orc came to the front of the giant mountain. He has a tower-like body and is nearly 2 meters tall. He has a big bald head, with fangs in his mouth sticking out, with a vicious look. Black Rock, a warrior with the same fame as the Cave Tribe and the Missing Rock, possesses the power of the highest peak of black iron. Black Rock, I have seen the chief priest. He came to the giant mountain and knelt down respectfully. Jushin glanced at him, and nodded secretly. Get up. He got up from the ground and stood beside him without saying a word. For the respect of Black Rock, Giant Mountain is extremely satisfied. He thought for a while and said, Blackstone, you are one of the most powerful warriors in the tribe. This time, I have a task to tell you to do. You take a team of warriors in the middle of the Black Iron, plus a priest, take the best equipment in the tribe, go to the tribe's stronghold in the Elf Forest, and organize personnel to explore the ruins of Phelang Kui. Halfway through, he stopped again, thought for a while, took out a bone fragment from his arms and handed it to Blackstone. This is a sacred object in the clan that can inspire the power of the Father God, and can perform a golden attack at a critical moment. In addition, it also has the power to purify the undead. This time, you may meet the favored one of the **** of death, so if you are in danger, return immediately, and you can abandon your stronghold at a critical moment. In addition, Jushin's expression flashed, and said seriously. If you encounter a strange elf, you must find a way to catch one and bring it back to the clan. If you do a good job, the tribe will have its own reward. Chapter 60. Novice Village is completed. The game time is always fast. Under the temptation of equipment and upgrades, the closed beta players also broke out unprecedented passion. One after another, many players have accumulated enough contribution points and replaced them with the equipment they dreamed of. And what surprised Eve the most was that the golden legendary equipment he put on the shelves were quickly exchanged. Not only that, but one person exchanged these golden legendary equipment. Is also familiar with the nickname Eve, Xiao Shanmiao, the chairman of the Mo committee. This female player is a mage and loves fireball, but unfortunately she is always inaccurate. Eve is very impressed with her. I paid a little attention, and Eve learned that after the golden legendary mage equipment was put on the shelves, this girl began to collect contributions in all servers without money. Some players counted, in order to collect contributions, she at least smashed 200,000 or 300,000. Local tyrant. Eve couldn't help but sigh, and at the same time recalled his poverty years on the Blue Star. How can there be truly balanced online games in this world? Can you become stronger without gold? Except for games on a pig farm. 1 month after the holy city Phelang Kui was regained, the construction of the elf town was finally over. At this moment, this player's stronghold under the world tree already has a large scale. Apart from not building a city wall, it is already a very charming small city. Not only that, due to the interest of the players, this town is different from the traditional elven buildings. The town is full of various European, Chinese, Japanese and even Arabic classical buildings on Blue Star. Several players majoring in landscape architecture and civil engineering have maximized what they have learned. These buildings of different styles are gathered together, but they are not obtrusive at all. On the contrary, they have a special taste. In the building, there are unique gardens and various green belts alternately staggered, making the whole town seem to be located in a sea of green leaves and flowers, which also reflects the natural nature of the wizard. It is said that in order to design the buildings and scenery of the small town, players even issued a reward at Blue Star and consulted many industry leaders. The final result is that Eve just wanted to allow players to build a stronghold as long as they can live in. With the addition of magic, they tossed it more and more refined and more beautiful. Among them, the player construction team led by Cuckoo Bird has contributed the most. It is said that her dream is to build a small town that brings together various styles from all over the world, but she did not expect to have this opportunity in the game. This makes Eve seriously doubt whether there are heavy fans of Minecraft and Sim City among the players selected by herself. Not only that, the players also left room for development when designing the town, and they can expand further in the future. According to Cuckoo Bird, it is a place for other players in the future. And when the town was finally built, Eve was stunned. If this group of players are allowed to restore the old summer palace, they will definitely do a beautiful job. At this moment, Eve sighed involuntarily when looking at this fairy town that looked like garden crafts. Even Alice and Barthaka were shocked by the handwriting of the chosen. The goddess is on top. These chosen people must be the best craftsmen in their world. Looking at the exquisite and small garden landscape, Alice couldn't help but express her heartfelt admiration. And all the closed beta players gathered in the square of the wizard town. The central square has a large area, more than enough to accommodate 300 players. From Eve's point of view, even 3,000 people are definitely tolerable. Today is a special day. The elf town is completely completed, and Cuckoo Bird has already posted on the official website forum, inviting all the closed beta players to participate in the completion of the town. Although the players' construction team is the main force in building the town, 300 people have contributed in this process, so this town can also be said to be the brainchild of all players. Not only that, their home in the game is also here. Everyone has an exquisite house and attached small garden. Here is their hometown in Seg's world. Elf Country has been in service for so long, and none of the 300 players have retired. It is a miracle in the game industry. In addition, based on Blue Star's time, the average daily online time of the closed beta players has reached more than 12 hours. I have to say, this is a terrifying statistic, which is enough to illustrate the player stickiness of Elf Country. Of course, after players enter the game, Blue Star's body will fall asleep is also one of the reasons for their long online time. Because of this mechanism, many players choose to go online on Blue Star's night. Blue Star's body is in sleep, and consciousness is in the game. In addition to a little discomfort at the beginning, and long-term gaming may cause some psychological fatigue, they can completely turn sleep time into game time. This makes many office workers among the players hooked. These days, they have faintly regarded this as their second life. At this moment, the players gathered in the square looked excited. In the center of the square, next to the teleportation array connected to the player's birth point on the world tree, a solemn stone monument was erected. It was a natural boulder that the players found from the fairy forest, and it was carefully polished by them. On the stone tablet, densely packed characters are carved from top to bottom. That is Chinese. And the content is all names. That is the nickname of 300 closed beta players, the name of the person who participated in the construction of this fairy town. Cuckoo Bird, Li Mu, Demacia, Bento, Xiaoshan Miao, etc. All included. Below the name, it introduces the plan of the elf town, the player's vision, their construction process, and the completion time of the elf town. This stone tablet was proposed by Eve through Alice's mouth, and was unanimously approved by the players. From now on, this stone monument will accompany the growth of the elven town and become a beautiful scenery in Elf Country. Every player who arrives, when they come to the town, will witness this stone monument and know the struggle history of the first test players. With the revival of the elven civilization, this stone stele that records the first come to the chosen will also appear in the stories chanted by the bard, sung from generation to generation, and eventually become an ancient myth. Here, will be the beginning of the fairy epic. The players gathered in the square, sitting together excitedly. And Alice and Barthaka were also invited by them and came to the square. Cuckoo Bird handed a knife to the elf girl in the solemn saint costume, and said respectfully, "Miss Alice, please cut the ribbon for the town." Said, she pointed to the stone tablet. On the stone tablet, the streamers have been wrapped around by the players. It was made by them using various flowers and plants in the forest to replace the red ribbon on the blue star. Alice, who has been informed by the players in advance, knows that cutting the ribbon is a ritual in the hometown of the chosen, so she is also very sincere this time. Looking at the smiles from the heart of the chosen, her heart is also full of emotion. Although they are still stumbling, but they have gradually integrated into this world. Took a deep breath, Alice showed a sweet smile, and under the witness of 300 people, cut the ribbon wrapped around the stone tablet. Congratulations. Chosen, you have established your own home. She congratulated her sincerely. May nature be with you forever. Along with Alice's blessing, the players cheered. The wizards who have been prepared continuously release fireballs and other explosive magic into the sky, like a blossoming firework. Everything is like a holiday. While the players cheered, suddenly, a magnificent sacred light descended from the sky. Countless bright photons are floating like rain, like dreams. The stone tablet bursts out with a dazzling light, and the words carved on it are all transformed into sacred gold. The ethereal hymn came, ethereal and mighty, washing everyone's hearts. A miracle. It's a miracle. Seeing this sudden change, Alice looked surprised. She turned to the direction of the world tree, www.mtlnovel.com, religiously drew a Mother of Nature symbol on her chest, happily. It's Lord Mother Goddess. Lord Mother Goddess is also sending you blessings. The players looked at each other and their eyes lit up. Didn't know who got up first, and suddenly shouted. Praise the mother of nature, praise the goddess of life, praise the great elf master Uktrahir. And then, there was a more enthusiastic echo. Countless players raised their weapons and equipment, booed and shouted excitedly. Praise the mother of nature, praise the goddess of life, praise the great elf master Uktrahir. Just shouting, the content is crooked. My goddess, I will work hard for the rise of the elves. The new version must bless me to dig into the epic secrets. Me too. Me too. The new version must bless me to trigger the hidden plot. There is me. Please bless me to find the equipment of the golden legend. Praise nature. Please give me a second closed beta player girl. Quote. Alice. Basaka. In the sky. Eve, who has basically repaired the soul storage orb, is also very pleased to see the lively town square. As for the metaphysics, prayers of the players, it has been ignored by him. On the world tree, hundreds of human-shaped pupas have taken shape, and inside are sleeping mature elf bodies. Eve played with the soul storage orb for a while, and then dropped it into one of the pupas. Soon, the second closed beta will start. At this moment, he is full of expectations for the future. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.